in Parliament over justice for Manipur. To compel Prime Minister Modi to speak on Manipur. Opposition moves no confidence motion.
प्राइम मिनिस्टर को सदन में खींचकर लाने के लिए एक ही हमारे पास औजार बचे हुए हैं, वो नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन।
नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन का जो अंत में कंक्लूजन होता है वो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी द्वारा किया जाता है।
Will Prime Minister bend to India? Our top focus at 6 p.m. Prime.
Good evening. You're watching 6 p.m. Prime here on India Today. I'm Akshita Nandagopal, back after a brief break to get you all the top stories that we're tracking over the next 1 hour. We'll begin with what's happening in Parliament today. The disruptions continue as this time the opposition, India, has put the focus on a no-trust motion against the N.D.A. government. But with numbers really not on their side, is this just a ploy to get the Prime Minister to speak on Manipur? That's a question I'll be putting forward to Gaurav Gogoi of the Congress, who joins us live on 6 p.m. Prime. He's the one who moved the no-trust motion, and that and much more coming your way. Here are the headlines first. Opposition's no confidence motion accepted for debate. Lok Sabha Speaker accepts motion from Gaurav Gogoi. Date of debate to be announced soon. Fresh violence erupts in Manipur. Shops and houses burnt in More district of Manipur. Miscreants fell stones. Cops resort to tear gas deployment. We'll get you a ground report. Delhi Ordnance Dangle to kick off in Parliament. Home Minister Amit Shah to introduce Ordnance Bill in Lok Sabha on Monday. (1984) anti-Sikh riots case continues to haunt Jagdish Titler. Delhi court takes cognizance of charge sheet, directs Congress leader to appear before court on 5th August. It's a mega India Today impact. Suomoto case and FIR registered against 3 girls for putting hidden cameras in the college washroom. FIR also registered against administration of the college. And Defence Minister Rajnath Singh's big warning to Pakistan says just because India doesn't cross the LOC doesn't mean it can't.
भारतीय मूल्यों के प्रति हमारा पूरा विश्वास है और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कानूनों के प्रति हमारी प्रतिबद्धता है। उस समय अगर हमने एलओसी पार नहीं किया तो इसका मतलब यह नहीं था कि हम एलओसी नहीं पार कर सकते थे।
Let's begin with breaking news that's coming in from the national capital. A week ago, we saw how dire the situation was in Delhi as several parts of the capital was underwater. Arvind Kejriwal has now been confronted and questioned during a civic body meet on the plight the Delhiites had to undergo and why infrastructure wasn't better in the national capital to ensure we could avoid such a situation. And Arvind Kejriwal walked off when he was confronted with questions on why there was no meeting that's happened of the flood panel that's been set up to address particularly these issues. Let me play out for you that sequence of how Kejriwal got up and walked off.
महिलाओं के ऊपर करे हुए आप सुविधा कैंप लगते हैं अरविंद केजरीवाल जी, सुविधा कैंप के मुद्दे पे नहीं बोल रहे। बताएंगे अरविंद केजरीवाल जी कहाँ थे आप? आपके लिए लालू यादव जो भ्रष्टाचार चारा घोटाला में लिप्त थे उनसे गठबंधन जरूरी है। शरद पवार उनके साथ बैठ के करप्शन जरूरी है। आप मीटिंग छोड़ के भागना चाह रहे हैं अरविंद केजरीवाल जी। आप अरविंद केजरीवाल जी मीटिंग छोड़ के भाग रहे हैं। आज फिर मत भागिए महिलाओं के इशू पे आप जवाब दीजिए अरविंद केजरीवाल जी। भागिए मत अरविंद केजरीवाल जी, भागिए मत अरविंद केजरीवाल जी।
Okay, so that is the sequence where Arvind Kejriwal right after stood up and walked off. This was a civic body meet. Let's play out for you what civic body officials had to say about that huddle, how they questioned Kejriwal, and he got up, refused to answer those questions.
बड़ी हैरानी की बात है, एनडीएमसी के इतिहास में आज पहली बार ऐसा हुआ कि जब हमने अरविंद केजरीवाल जी से पूछा, मैंने पूछा, हमारे साथ हमारे मेंबर विशाखा जी, गिरीश जी, सतीश जी, हम सब थे। मैंने पूछा, मैंने दिखाया कि भाई एपेक्स कमेटी फ्लड कंट्रोल की बनी हुई है, उस एपेक्स कमेटी को आप चेयर करते हैं जिसमें फ्लड कंट्रोल के लिए जिसमें मेजर्स और इनिशिएटिव ले जाते हैं। आप लोगों को जानकर हैरानी होगी, वो कहते हैं कि रोम जल रहा था और नीरो बांसुरी बजा रहा था। तो मैंने कहा अरविंद केजरीवाल जी से कि रोम जल रहा था, नीरो बांसुरी बजा रहा था कि तर्ज पे दिल्ली डूब रही थी। मैं पूर्वी दिल्ली रहता हूँ, बुरा हाल था। मैंने अरविंद केजरीवाल जी से कहा कि आप ये बता दीजिए आपने फ्लड कंट्रोल की मीटिंग क्यों नहीं ली। तो अरविंद केजरीवाल जी के पास जवाब नहीं था। जब मैंने कहा अरविंद केजरीवाल जी जवाब भी देना पड़ेगा, जनता से जुड़े मुद्दों का हिसाब भी देना पड़ेगा।
Let's bring in Himanshu Mishra on this broadcast. Himanshu, explain for us what happened in that meeting. Why did Arvind Kejriwal refuse to take any of the questions? And, at this point, has there been any sort of statement that's coming from AAP?
देखिए, बिल्कुल कुलजीत चहल जो है एनडीएमसी के मेंबर हैं और उन्होंने जब एनडीएमसी की बैठक हुई तो उन्होंने महिलाओं से जुड़े सवाल पूछे जो आरटीआई के जवाब में है कि आपने अभी तक महिलाओं के लिए नई दिल्ली क्षेत्र का आप प्रतिनिधित्व करते हैं एज ए विधायक के तौर पर, तो आपने क्या क्या किया? आपने कोई काम महिलाओं के लिए नहीं किया, उनकी सिक्योरिटी के लिए, उनके लिए कोई अलग से व्यवस्था नहीं की है। और उसके साथ साथ जो है कुलजीत चहल ने कहा कि जब दिल्ली डूब रही थी तो आपने उससे पहले एपेक्स कमेटी की क्यों नहीं मीटिंग की थी? तो इन सवालों का आपको जवाब देना पड़ेगा। अरविंद केजरीवाल जो दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री और एनडीएमसी के चेयरमैन हैं, वो वहां से वॉकआउट करके चले गए। यानी कि एक बार फिर से भारतीय जनता पार्टी के जो कुलजीत चहल और एनडीएमसी के मेंबर हैं, उन्होंने सवाल पूछे। इससे पहले भी 2 बार ऐसा ही हुआ है, जब एनडीएमसी की बैठक होती है, कुलजीत चहल या अन्य मेंबर्स जब इस तरीके के सवाल जो हैं अरविंद केजरीवाल से पूछते हैं तो वो उसका जवाब नहीं देते हैं और वो वहां से वॉकआउट कर जाते हैं। इससे पहले भी पानी को लेकर, पानी की किल्लत को लेकर जो है सवाल पूछे गए थे एनडीएमसी की बैठक में, तब भी इसी तरीके का माहौल था और अरविंद केजरीवाल बैठक छोड़ के चले गए।
Asked particularly about why there was no meeting of the flood panel that was set up. Kejriwal is in fact the head of that panel. No meeting has happened, and that's what he was asked about. Refused to answer. Thanks, Himanshu, for getting us all of those details. All right, let's move on to our top story this evening on 6 p.m. Prime. What's played out in Parliament? Well, the official introduction of the no trust motion was done. The Lok Sabha Speaker has accepted the motion, considering that it met the brief of a minimum amount of support required. But beyond that, the Speaker is yet to decide when exactly the debate will happen. The opposition has one goal here. They want the Prime Minister to come forward in both houses and speak on what's happening in Manipur.
वो शुभकामनाएं मैं आज फिर देना चाहता हूं कि आप इतनी तैयारी करो कि 2023 में फिर से आपको अविश्वास प्रस्ताव लाने का मौका मिले।
This prediction by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, done 4 years ago, is coming true. The Parliament witnessing yet another no trust battle. Waging a big war, the opposition I.N.D.I.A alliance moved a no-trust motion against centre over Manipur violence. The motion was weighed and almost immediately accepted by the Lok Sabha Speaker, paving the way for a vote within 10 days. The last no-trust vote against Modi government was in 2018, which the ruling combined sailed through with a big margin. Opposition claims it was the only option before it to get the Prime Minister Narendra Modi to speak on Manipur.
We want justice for Manipur, and I.N.D.I.A alliance is for Manipur. And that is why we have presented the government with this no confidence motion to remind the Prime Minister of his constitutional, moral and ethical responsibility towards the state of affairs in Manipur.
अगर अविश्वास प्रस्ताव लाया जा रहा है लोकसभा में तो इस स्वागत योग्य कदम है। इसके जरिए कम से कम प्रधानमंत्री को मजबूर होना पड़ेगा मणिपुर की हिंसा पर जवाब देने के लिए।
वो हर तरीके से प्रजातंत्र और पार्लियामेंट्री डेमोक्रेसी का हनन करने में लगी हुई है, उसका गला घोटने को भी तैयार है। उम्मीद करते हैं प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी मणिपुर की घटना को लेकर और मणिपुर को लेकर सदन में चर्चा करेंगे।
The government has claimed that it is ready for a debate on Manipur violence and only Home Minister Amit Shah will reply.
सरकार हर परिस्थिति के लिए तैयार है। हम तो चाहते हैं मणिपुर पे चर्चा हो। कल गृह मंत्री जी ने भी लोकसभा में फिर बोला, क्योंकि इनका विषय सत्र शुरू होने से पहले यही था कि मणिपुर पे चर्चा कराओ। अब चर्चा कराने की जब हमने सहमति भरी तो रूल्स ले आए कि प्रधानमंत्री जी आकर के चर्चा शुरू करें। ये मुझे लगता बहाना है।
But it is not just the India alliance. Even BRS separately moved no trust motion against Prime Minister, which OAC's AIMIM says it will support.
जो देश में जो मणिपुर का जो इश्यू घटना चल रहा है उसका ऊपर जो है चर्चा होना चाहिए। देश के प्रधानमंत्री का मुंह से अगर ये बात आने से देश के लोगों के लिए थोड़ा शांति भी रहेगा, अच्छा रहेगा बोल के हम लोग काफ़ी कोशिश किया था। आज के दिन में जो है ना ये नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन मूव किया है।
It is the day 5 of the parliament and it was stalled yet again with opposition leaders asking for Prime Minister Modi's statement on Manipur in parliament. But amid raging India alliance versus Modi government, who will blink first? With Paulami Saha and Mausami Singh in New Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
And leader of opposition to generate discipline and decorum in their members. Please take your seat.
Let's bring in on this broadcast our National Affairs editor Rahul Srivastava to discuss what's played out in Parliament so far. Rahul, good evening. Focusing on the no trust motion, do you believe, Rahul, that the reason, the motive behind this kind of motion being brought in by the opposition is merely to get the Prime Minister to speak? Because numbers-wise, it's not really stacking up in their favour.
Akshita, technically, I will say this is for the first time in a very bitter, acrimonious parliament. No confidence motion has been moved to make a prime minister speak up on a particular issue. In 1963, the third Lok Sabha had a motion by Mr. Acharya J.B. Kripalani against the Jawaharlal Nehru government because Acharya Kripalani wanted to prove a point to the government but not make the prime minister speak. There has been no such history of an opposition coming together only to use a no confidence motion as an instrument to make the prime minister speak. Remember what it also does, that it may not happen, the numbers are staggering for the government, but it insulates the government for the next 6 months. No trust motion, the Modi government does not need to prove its strength in the House for the next 6 months from here on. So it's a gamble taken by the opposition. But what the idea is to make the Prime Minister speak, because see what has happened, that it has been moved by Gaurav Gogoi. Gaurav Gogoi comes from Northeast, one of the most prominent faces of the Congress or the opposition that India combined 26 parties from the Northeast. Now, when Gaurav Gogoi moves it, it's at eminence. So he will be triggering the debate on the no confidence motion. That means it's a signal to the Northeast, where the BJP right now seems to be struggling because of what has happened in Manipur. Also, MNF, Mizo National Front, is an ally of the BJP, and they have a very strong cookie base, and that is why they will be also watching out which way to go. The eventual staggering numbers, since they are with the government, there is one issue that the government eventually can go out and say after the trust vote that, see, we told you the House, sense of the House is with the Narendra Modi government. Remember, in this very critical will be, there are three basic components of parliament right now. One is a 329 odd number strength of the I.N.D.A plus its along with its allies.
Sure.
The second is the 141 odd numbers of the India 26 party coalition. And the third is a 63 odd number independents and BJD, BRS, YSRCP and others. Now, since BRS has already given a no trust motion, we were to see what kind of overlap happens. If the government does win away a BJD or YSRCP or this abstain, means that the government numbers compared to the opposition which has moved the trust motion will be staggering. But the opposition does get to prove a point. In this one, it will have Prime Minister speaking. Second, that template, whatever the Prime Minister says or doesn't say, will become a template for Northeast or all over the country, that somewhere there is a sense of failure of this government. I think if also it will be a good statement for India, the 26 party combined and the rest of the players.
Interesting perspective. Thanks very much, Rahul, for joining us here at 6 p.m. Prime and essentially decoding what's playing out in Parliament, what perhaps is the strategy of India. Rahul Srivastava referred to Gaurav Gogoi, the man who has essentially put forward, submitted this no trust motion. Joining us here on India Today on 6 p.m. Prime is Gaurav Gogoi, Congress MP from the Northeast, symbolically has filed this motion. Gaurav, good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to begin with the same question that I put forward to Rahul Srivastava, which is that with the numbers not on your side, have you decided to go ahead and submit this no trust motion with the single sole agenda of getting the Prime Minister to speak on Manipur?
It is not about numbers. What is more important is that a message of solidarity and hope goes out to the people of Manipur who feel as if they have been completely abandoned by the Prime Minister, who has chosen to remain silent for close to 80 days. If at the end of our no confidence motion, we might be defeated, but if the Prime Minister sends out a message of peace, if all political parties stand up with one voice and say that India stands with the Northeast and with the people of Manipur,
sure,
that we announce a new process of dialogue amongst the various stakeholders, then even though our motion might be defeated, but for the cause of territorial integrity, for the cause of preserving humanity in Manipur and in the Northeast, I think we would have achieved a major success.
Let me put forth the BJP's argument here. They're saying, one, to your question of whether the Prime Minister has spoken, they say, look, the Prime Minister, before the monsoon session began, gave a statement of what's happening in Manipur. And besides that, the Home Minister is willing to speak. He stood up in Parliament, said, I'm willing to give a statement, we're willing to discuss this, but that the opposition has been constantly disrupting these sessions. Why is it that the Home Minister can't issue a statement on this?
The Union Home Minister went to Manipur and constituted a peace committee of 51 members, and this committee has totally failed. In fact, members of this committee have rejected the committee which has been constituted by the Union Home Minister. So his efforts have not borne fruit. More than 6,000 sophisticated weapons have been looted from police stations and are still in the hands of civilians. Therefore, it is incumbent upon the Prime Minister to make a statement. The Prime Minister chose to speak after 80 days. What was he doing before? And he only spoke because the Supreme Court Chief Justice made a scathing observation and a video went viral. Yet he addressed only one form of human right violation. But there are close to 55,000 people living in relief camps. The different communities are no longer living eye to eye. There's a complete lack of faith in the state machinery, in the law and order machinery. People are asking for the Chief Minister to resign. And it is inexplicable that a government that replaces Chief Minister 3 times, 4 times, just to benefit themselves in the election, has continued to support a Chief Minister under whose reign so many atrocities against women, tribals, young people, so many homes, under whose reign so many churches have been destroyed. And yet the Prime Minister continues, for some reason best known to himself, to support this Chief Minister.
Let's talk about the disruptions that have been happening for the last few days in Parliament. It's clear that your parties and every party part of the I.N.D.I.A alliance wants one issue to be discussed, Manipur. But is that really counterproductive right now? Because the BJP has said, look, the Prime Minister is not going to speak. And as a result of that, they're going about business as usual. They're passing their bills because they have the numbers in Lok Sabha. And so is the opposition's protest right now going unheard?
What message is the BJP trying to send the people of Manipur? That there are issues which are far more important. There are bills which are far more important than what has happened to the women. There are issues which are far more important to the complete breakdown in the relationship between the Kukis and Meiteis and Naga. What is more important than talking about this conflict which is spreading to other parts of the Northeast, Assam, Mizoram? These are states on our border. This is becoming an issue of national security and territorial integrity. And yet the BJP feel that they have other issues of more importance. The Prime Minister, instead of talking about Manipur, is talking about Chhattisgarh and East India Company. I mean, in the past, I have never seen a Prime Minister who's been so indifferent. All political parties of when they were prime ministers who faced a conflict, used to address the issue heads on. But in this particular case, I found a prime minister who takes credit for successes. But when there's a failure, he outsources them to his cabinet. He has the time to campaign in a Delhi MCD election, but does not have the time to visit Manipur and console the victims of violence. As a citizen of India, as someone from the Northeast, I am shocked. I feel abandoned. I feel isolated. I feel a sense of disconnect. And this is a feeling that is shared by many in the Northeast.
Based on what you're saying, are you making a case here for all bills, all legislations, all discussions to be put on hold and the focus to only be on Manipur and Parliament right now in this session?
Absolutely. Right now, it's a time to send a message of comfort, to try make an effort to heal the wounds. The fractions which have erupted in the communities will take decades to heal, and they still have access to sophisticated weapons. These are states on our border and they are prone to external influences. Do we want the situation to worsen? Surprisingly, a party that champions itself on nationalism and domestic security is failing to preserve the integrity of the Northeast, is failing on law and order, is failing on domestic security, is failing the tribals, is failing the women. There is still time. There's still time for the Prime Minister to make a statement, and we hope that through this vote of no confidence, he will have the courage to stand inside Parliament and speak to the people of the nation.
The BJP, Gaurav Gogoi, is saying that at this point, they're very clear that the Home Minister is open to a discussion. The Prime Minister won't speak on this issue because he's already given a statement. At this juncture, with what's happening in the opposition, your party saying that we want the Prime Minister to speak, these endless disruptions, are we looking essentially at another washout session, at no discussion on any of the bills?
The question is, why is the Prime Minister giving more importance to his image than the dignity of the women and the tribals of Manipur? Why is the Prime Minister finding the time to inaugurate a trade and exhibition center in Delhi but not come inside Parliament? What kind of democracy are we living in? And if today this is happening in Manipur, then tomorrow it can happen in any other part of the state. Do we want to preserve the integrity of India? Do we want to alienate further the people of Manipur? Have they not suffered enough? Have they not felt enough pain? Can we not do something more?
Sure.
This is what the India Alliance is trying to do. That is why Rahul Gandhi ji visited Manipur. That is what we are trying to do.
No,
that the Prime Minister may have forgotten Manipur, but India Alliance stands with Manipur. We want justice for Manipur, and we will continue to raise the voice of Manipur inside Parliament.
My final question to you, Gaurav Gogoi. You mentioned Rahul Gandhi's visit to Manipur. You spoke of the India Alliance coming together. The constant criticism that comes your party and the alliance's way from the BJP is, why is there pin drop silence of what's happening in a Rajasthan, in a Chhattisgarh? Why are parties not speaking out over it? Why aren't you critical of women's safety, of law and order breakdown in these states when you speak constantly of Manipur?
What is happening in Manipur in terms of the scale of violence, the scale of human atrocity, the kind of Rwanda-like situation, the kind of internal civil war is happening nowhere else in India. And even people of India, your viewers understand that the BJP is trying to divert the attention and obfuscate the issue, trying to treat it as a law and order issue, try to treat it as an issue for the Minister of Home Affairs or for the Minister of Women and Child. For God's sake, let us give attention to Manipur. This is a very sensitive and complex part of our country. This is a potential to escalate and spread. Who are we trying to benefit? Is the BJP trying to benefit India's enemies by ignoring the Northeast? Do they not know the history of insurgency and how they were supported by external forces? What kind of government is this? And that is why we have moved the vote of no confidence motion. The government has failed to resolve the issue in Manipur, and it is their government in the state. They are taking no action. The Prime Minister continues to support a Chief Minister who's played a key role in ensuring that this conflict does not die down.
Okay. You from the northeast, from Assam, Gaurav Gogoi, have decided to go ahead with this no trust motion because you want to put the focus on a discussion and a statement from the Prime Minister. The Speaker has accepted your motion, so we'll track closely what happens in Parliament. But thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us here on India Today. As we focus on the politics, on the other side of a short break here at 6 p.m. Prime, we're not taking the focus away from what's happening on the ground in Manipur. India Today's reporters are there. We'll get you a detailed report by Ashutosh Mishra in just a bit that gives you a sense of how bad really the situation is in the state.
Several villages in Turbang areas were burned in the ethnic clashes, the violence and all. I see only the footprints, everything that burned to these ashes. They blame for everything that is happening here to the Kuki government.
We are only defending ourselves.
There is a literally line of this area towards the Kuki side where you have a huge number of bunkers. No one could ever imagine that in a state, in a same country, in a same district, we will ever see such situation which has become a battlefield. And I could say this is a war zone in Manipur.
Grounded in journalism, on the ground reporting, only on India Today TV.
Tesla just a few talks away from making an electrifying entry into India. Promises not just world-class cars but a whole electric ecosystem. Looks to make India an export hub for Asia Pacific and Africa. Tata Motors share powers to another 52-week high as it declares a net profit of 3,203 crore rupees in April to June against a loss of 5,007 crore a year ago. Revenues also jumped 42% on year. Operating margin zooms by 700 basis points to 14.4%. Stock markets end flat after volatile trade. Gains in metals and auto stocks offset by selling in banking, FMCG and IT. Sensex in the red while Nifty closes in the green just about. Interest rates could soften by as much as 25 basis points in the next few quarters. PNB Housing Finance MD and CEO tells us in an exclusive chat, also says realty sector is on a rebound. More trouble for Byju's as it's now slammed by one of its largest shareholders. Netherlands-based Prosus says the edtech company repeatedly ignored advice from its nominee director.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Welcome back. You're watching 6 p.m. Prime, and we're not taking the focus away from what's happening in Manipur. India Today's team of reporters are on the ground, and I want you to take a look now at our next ground report, extensively shot by Ashutosh Mishra from parts of Manipur that no other team has managed to reach. He tells you what's the situation currently in the state.
The moment I cross West Imphal, that's another district in the hilly terrain, and in this Limakhong area, almost all these villages are wearing a deserted look. All I see only few men who are guarding their villages, putting out these amount of barricades, and these barricades have a restriction particular time for entry and exit. What these barricades are made for? हम यहाँ इतना सन्नाटा क्यों देख रहे हैं? कहाँ गए सारे लोग गांव के?
सर एक्चुअली पूरा औरत लोग और बच्चे लोग तो जहाँ सेफ है, इधर इन रिलीफ कैंप और अपना जहाँ रिलेटिव्स दूसरा इलाका में है उन लोग के पास चला गया है. अभी सिर्फ मेल सिर्फ जो बच्चा है वो लोग रह रहा है.
ये बैरिकेड लगाने की ज़रूरत क्यों पड़ी है?
एक्चुअली इट्स हमारा इलाका एरिया है, एक मिक्स कम्युनिटी रहता है. इसमें नागास भी है, पहले कुकी मेतेईस भी था और नेपालीस मालवारीस लोग भी है.
मेतेई रहने वाले थे, वो चले गए यहाँ से.
अभी तो वो लोग चला गया.
आपके यहाँ पर भी हिंसा हुई थी, वायलेंस हुआ था यहाँ पे?
हाँ, यहाँ पे भी वायलेंस तो हुआ था, शूटिंग हुआ था. एग्जैक्टली इसमें भी हुआ था, ये विलेज में भी और उस तरफ में भी हुआ था.
कितने लोग मारे गए थे?
यहाँ लिमखोंग एरिया में 3 आदमी मर गया.
3 लोग मारे?
3 लोग मारे गए.
Who would have ever thought that there will be a buffer zone between two community? Right behind me in the valley area, the plains, that's the farming zone for the Meitei community. Well, right behind what you see is the farming areas for the Kuki community, and there I can spot some bunkers, trenches were made which were used by the Kuki community during the peak of the violence when the firing was taking place. Now imagine the situation on the ground in this part of Manipur where the people at war against each other who have been living together, and now literally there is a buffer zone, line of control, and this kind of situation explains the furious and the ground reality of Manipur, how the situation remained tense even after 80 days of the violence. कभी आप लोगों ने सोचा था कि 2 कम्युनिटी आप लोग एक साथ खाना खाने वाला, एक साथ सेलिब्रेशन करने वाला, ऐसा बफर जोन, लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल बना देगा एक दूसरे के बीच में?
ये तो कभी सोचा भी नहीं था. बहुत अच्छा से रह रहा था हम लोग, पता नहीं क्या हो गया बीच में. अभी हम लोग
अभी यहाँ के जो बंकर्स वगैरह हैं वो चल रहे हैं या हटा दिए उसको?
अभी ये तो हटा दिया है गवर्नमेंट ऑर्डर के मुताबिक. जितना भी जो दिखाई देता है बंकर्स उसको हटा दो बोल के बताया था, इसलिए उसके मुताबिक हम लोग ने सब बंकर्स को हटा दिया है.
लेकिन बफर जोन बना दिया है अपने इलाके में.
क्या करेगा सर, उपाय नहीं है, जिंदगी है, संभालना पड़ता है.
In the valley, the Meitei community have been accusing for the Kuki tribe and their guards using automatic weapons. For now, let me show you this bullet made in Limakhong, as the locals said. The barrels have been filled in inside, and all the weapons that I see here lined up, this is being used by the Border Defense Guard, which are the volunteers of these villages during the conflict, making the bunkers across the Meitei community villages. Now it is being polished, checked, cleaned. Of course, it is ready for a further conflict. We can only hope there are no further situation when these people are going to use this. But all I see are some double barrel guns like these, which of course looks like automatic weapon, but it is not. It is double barrel gun. And another I see is a single barrel gun. And of course, these arms are literally in a huge number. So that indeed says about the conflict situation, but it is not only one side. We see the similar images on both the sides. Because of the conflict, many of these people have left their homes. Women, children have gone to the safer places. And those who are left here struggling for survival. The reason is, now look at these houses. There's a very old lady who's living here with the family. Almost nothing left now. But what makes it critical is they are running out of food. Now in this house, this is the only amount of rice which is left, and it is sowing season. Of course, they have to go to 12 hours to Churachandpur to bring. In other cases, usual days, just by going 3 to 4 kilometers in the near West Imphal district, there is a big market, and that have been the tradition. They have been sharing. They're going to sell their vegetables, bring the dry ration here. But as far as dry ration is concerned, what I see here, some amount of rice, which this family could barely survive for another 2 to 3 days. Only vegetables because they grow locally. That's all they have. And the moment you enter in the kitchen, all I see, this is the only vegetable that they have left. Locally grown vegetable, and there I see the elder lady cooking some food in the chula. There is so that explains the situation and the plight of the poor people who are caught in the crossfire. But as far as the situation is concerned, there are some people who would speak about the current crisis. There are how many such families who are still living in this village and several other villages around, and how are they surviving?
Actually, because of this conflict, this violence, around, I should say 60 to 70% of the households are struggling to get their livelihood. Most of them, I should say, are daily wage earner, and now they are finding it hard to get 2 days a meal even.
What is the name of this lady? I see only this amount of dry ration left.
Yes, they have only this much left, and their livelihood is very, very uncertain. This is also the contribution of some goodwill people from their neighbors.
From the neighbors?
From the neighbors.
And this is situation almost all these villages?
Yeah, in most of the villages this happened.
The road behind me connects this Limakhong to Imphal Valley, which is the lifeline for the people.
All right, we're cutting out of that report, interrupting that report to get you live images coming in right now of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's reached in Pragati Maidan's ICC Centre, the revamped complex which will host the G20 meeting next month. These are live images coming in. Remember, earlier today, the Prime Minister performed a Lokarpan Puja in the complex. Now is the official inauguration. You've got Prime Minister Modi there going ahead and officially kicking off the event. Looks like he's going to be operating that drone to, in fact, launch this exhibition cum convention center, which will host the G20 Leaders Summit. Let's cut across live, get you some of the images that are coming in right now. Okay, so Prime Minister Modi, in fact, inaugurating this swanky new complex in a very fittingly an innovative and modern way. It's no longer the ICC complex in Pragati Maidan, but now will be called Bharat Mandapam. That was the name that was launched by the Prime Minister with that drone inauguration that we just played out for you. A massive cultural show that's currently taking place there with people from different states of the country showcasing India's culture, showcasing our traditions in what's a grand welcome for Prime Minister Modi at the Pragati Maidan complex. This is now called the Bharat Mandapam. Now, it's a state-of-the-art facility and bigger than some of the biggest convention centers of the world, bigger than the Sydney Opera House as well. So it's going to be a leading exhibition and convention complex. The first big mega headline event that it will in fact host is the G20 leaders meeting, which will happen next month. Now, in fact, you had earlier today the Prime Minister performing a puja in the complex ahead of its inauguration. He also felicitated those who were involved in the construction of this particular complex. This particular campus itself is about 123 acres. There were a lot of outdated structures essentially in the area. All of that has been revamped, and this entire complex has been rebuilt at a cost of 2,700 crores. This, in fact, has been built keeping in mind all of India's international needs to host global events, to ensure state-of-the-art convention events and centers can also be housed here. Now, this will in fact be a part of the top exhibition and convention centers of the world, essentially rivaling Germany's Hanover Exhibition Center, Shanghai's National Exhibition and Convention Center. It's bigger than the Sydney Opera House as well. It's got amphitheaters, exhibition halls, convention centers as well. This is, ladies and gentlemen, an architectural wonder, an architectural marvel, yet another one, and has been inaugurated in time for the mega G20 leaders meeting that will happen next in September, in fact. Let's take this across to Aishwarya Paliwal, who's joining us live from Pragati Maidan. So, Aishwarya, the inauguration happening as we speak. The ITPO complex has now been rechristened as Bharat Mandapam.
Well, you know, one of the things that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been time and again doing is the fact that he wants to make sure that we have structures which rival the world. And this new convention center, which will have the heads of big 30 states in September, when the culmination of the G20 will take place, that will take place inside the Pragati Maidan Convention Center now. The inauguration will take place in just a couple of minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has already reached the venue. From what we know, there will be some kind of program, and then Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the nation and talk about the kind of marvel that one will see inside.
Let's cut across live to what's happening. Let's amp the volume.
इस अवसर पर हृदय से स्वागत माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का। नए भारत की एक बानगी प्रस्तुत कर रहा है ये भारत मंडपम, जिसकी नींव ईंट पत्थर पर ही नहीं, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के दूरदर्शी विचारों, दृढ़ इच्छा शक्ति और मजबूत इरादों पर भी टिकी है, जो देश को विकसित राष्ट्र बनाने की संकल्पना को साकार करने की दिशा में प्रयासरत हैं। इस अवसर पर श्रद्धेय माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी, हम सब आपका अभिनंदन करते हैं। साथ ही यहाँ उपस्थित सम्मानित केंद्रीय मंत्रीगण, आदरणीय सांसदगण, उद्योग जगत की सभी विशिष्ट शख्सियतों, माइस इंडस्ट्री के सभी आमंत्रित अतिथियों, विभिन्न इंडस्ट्री एसोसिएशंस, सेक्टोरल एसोसिएशंस, मिशंस के ट्रेड काउंसलर्स, विभिन्न वैश्विक संस्थाओं के प्रमुख तथा सभी सम्मानित महानुभावों का हम स्वागत करते हैं। उम्मीदों की नींव पर खड़ी ये इमारत विशाल है रूप, नए भारत का झलकता स्वरूप, उत्तम से सर्वोत्तम की भाषा तय करती, सर्वश्रेष्ठता के हर स्तर को अभिव्यक्त करती, जिसमें है सुविधाएं अपार जो दे सकती हैं कल्पनाओं को विस्तार। वैश्विक मंच पर नए भारत का उद्घोष है ये, 140 करोड़ देशवासियों के आत्मविश्वास का प्रतीक है ये। इंटरनेशनल कन्वेंशन सेंटर भारत मंडपम, जिसकी भूमिका भी महत्वपूर्ण है। इससे प्रत्येक क्षेत्र में रचनात्मक, सृजनात्मक आयोजन व्यापक रूप से संभव हो सकेंगे, जो इन क्षेत्रों में विकास के नए मार्ग भी प्रशस्त करेंगे। आइए इस शुभ अवसर को देश की जीवंत संस्कृति के विविध रंगों से सजाते हैं। विभिन्न कलाकारों की रंगारंग प्रस्तुति के साथ, जिसका शीर्षक है ओजस्वी। ओजस्वी के प्रथम चरण में नृत्य प्रस्तुति में जीवनदायिनी सूर्य की मंगलाचरण पूजा, शुभ कार्य से पहले की गणेश पूजा और सृजनात्मकता नटराज की पूजा सम्मिलित है। सुप्रसिद्ध कलाकार संतोष नायर द्वारा इस प्रस्तुति को कोरियोग्राफ किया गया है और म्यूजिक कॉम्पोजिशन दी गई है शंकर महादेवन और 3 बार ग्रैमी पुरस्कार जीत चुके रिकी केज के द्वारा। प्रस्तुत है ओजस्वी की प्रथम प्रस्तुति।
जय सुरवर पूजित जित दानव कलभ। भास्वर वर लंबोदर दर हर हर कलभ। नौमि श्री भगवन्तं गणपतिमति वरदं वरदन्ति मुखं सुमुखं सादर मे करदम्। विपदुदधौतं धौतमलं शमलं शमलम्बितमपि ददतं हतपापी शमलम्। तरुणं श्रीकान्तं कान्तं कलितैकान्तं कलये सुदुरन्तं। करुणावरुणालय चरणं विजितरणं शरणं करुणावरुणालय चरणं विजितरणं शरणं। यामोऽयमिनं शरणं कृतमत सुवितरणं। जय सुरवर पूजित जित दानव कलभ। सुरवर लंबोदर दर हर हर कलभ।
सरस्वत विनिर्गमक्रमस्फुरत्करालभालहव्यवा धिमिद्धिमिद्धिमिध्वनुं मृदङ्ग तुङ्ग मङ्गल ध्वनिक्रमा प्रवर्तित प्रचण्ड ताण्डव शिव ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 ॐ नमः शिवाय।
एक अद्भुत नृत्य प्रस्तुति संतोष नायर जी अपने समूह के साथ। ओजस्वी के दूसरे चरण में हम प्रस्तुत कर रहे हैं महाराष्ट्र की लोकप्रिय लोक कथा परंपरा पोवाड़। आज पोवाड़ा नए स्वरूप में हिंदी में प्रस्तुत की जा रही है, जिसमें हमारे देश की विविधता की विरासत को नए युग के भारत के साथ पिरोकर प्रस्तुत की जा रही है। और आज पोवाड़ा प्रस्तुत कर रहे हैं एक विशेष कलाकार। दरअसल वे लोग जो पोवाड़ा लिखते और गाते रहे हैं उन्हें शाहिर कहा जाता है, और आज शाहिर हैं संगीत नाटक अकादमी युवा पुरस्कार से सम्मानित नंदेश उमप, जिनका परिवार पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी पोवाड़ प्रस्तुत करता आ रहा है। आत्मनिर्भर भारत, बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ, स्वच्छ भारत अभियान का भी आह्वान कर रहा है ये पोवाड़ा। और इस प्रस्तुति के अंत में पोवाड़ा के साथ 100 कलाकार एक साथ शास्त्रीय लोक नृत्य और साथ ही साथ मुखौटा नृत्य का अद्भुत संगम भी प्रस्तुत करेंगे। तो आप सबके समक्ष प्रस्तुत है ओजस्वी।
मेरा बड़ी शान वाला जी जी जी, देश मेरा बड़ी शान वाला जी जी, देश मेरा बड़ी शान वाला जी 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 जी। कबीर गौतम बुद्ध आए, गुरु गोविंद जी नानक आए, रामकृष्ण परमहंस आए, वर्धमान महावीर आए, वर्धमान महावीर आए, योगी महात्मा संत आए, योगी महात्मा संत आए। ये पावन धरती मेरी, ये पावन धरती मेरी जान से प्यारी, बड़ा है दुनिया में सम्मान, बड़ा है दुनिया में सम्मान। भारत माँ पे करूँ निछावर जान जी जी जी, भारत माँ पे करूँ निछावर जान जी जी, भारत माँ पे करूँ निछावर जान जी 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 जी।
कसम है तुमको गीता की और उस रामायण की, कसम है तुमको ग्रंथ साहिब की बाइबल कुरान की,
कसम है तुमको ग्रंथ साहिब की बाइबल कुरान की,
कसम है हमको तुमको सबको ऊपर वाले की, कसम है तुमको साबरमती के महात्मा गांधी की,
कसम है तुमको साबरमती के महात्मा गांधी की,
कसम है तुमको छत्रपति शिवाजी राजा की, कसम है तुमको देशवीरों की सुभाष बाबू की,
कसम है तुमको देशवीरों की सुभाष बाबू की,
एक ही धरती एक आसमां एक ही ईश्वर है, एक खून से बने हैं हम सब ना कोई अंतर है,
एक खून से बने हैं हम सब ना कोई अंतर है।
भाइयों बहनों, भारत में कई भाषाएं हैं, इन सभी को एक सांचे में ढालने वाला डॉक्टर बाबा साहब जी का संविधान है। इसी संविधान ने समान शिक्षा का अधिकार दिया है। इसी का धागा पकड़कर 2014 से लेकर 2023 तक भारत विकास के परम शिखर पर चढ़ रहा है। बेटी पढ़ाओ और बेटी बचाओ का नारा गूंजता है, स्वच्छ भारत अभियान गांव-गांव में चल रहा है, सबका साथ सबका विकास सबका विश्वास होने लगा है,
होने लगा है।
देश के इस युवा शक्ति को बढ़ावा देने को आत्मनिर्भर भारत पूरा देश हो रहा है, आत्मनिर्भर भारत पूरा देश हो रहा है, मेरा देश बदल रहा है आगे बढ़ रहा है,
आगे बढ़ रहा है।
सन 2014 से सन 2014 से ख्याति बढ़ी हमारे भारत की,
ख्याति बढ़ी हमारे भारत की,
गतिमान विकास कामों की,
गतिमान विकास कामों की,
चांद पे पहुंचा चंद्रयान,
चांद पे पहुंचा चंद्रयान,
वो मेरा भारत देश महान जी 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 जी, वो मेरा भारत देश महान जी 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 जी।
धन्य भारतम 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 धन्य भारतम
धन्य भारतम धन्य भारतम धन्य भारतम धन्य भारतम धन्य भारतम धन्य भारतम धन्य भारतम धन्य भारतम धन्य भारतम धन्य भारतम धन्य भारतम अयं बन्धुरयं नेति गणना लघुचेतसाम् उदारचरितानां
देश प्रेम से ओतप्रोत पोवाड़ा की ये प्रस्तुति, अद्भुत कला का प्रदर्शन, असीम है भारत की कला प्रतिभा। आप सभी कलाकारों का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। देश के विभिन्न हिस्सों के मुखौटे जो इस नृत्य में प्रस्तुत किए गए, हमारे देश की सांस्कृतिक विविधता का एक अनुपम उदाहरण ये नृत्य प्रस्तुति। और अब मैं केंद्रीय वाणिज्य और उद्योग, उपभोक्ता मामले और खाद्य एवं सार्वजनिक वितरण और कपड़ा मंत्री माननीय श्री पीयूष गोयल को स्वागत संबोधन के लिए आमंत्रित करती हूँ।
भारत के और पूरे विश्व के सबसे लोकप्रिय नेता, एक ऐसे व्यक्ति जिसने भारत की सोच बदली, भारत की मानसिकता बदली और हम सबको प्रेरणा दी कि हम सब एक विकसित भारत की तरफ कर्तव्य भावना से चल निकले। ऐसे हमारे सबके श्रद्धेय प्रधानमंत्री माननीय श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी, सभी मंत्रिमंडल में माननीय मंत्रीगण, विश्व की सबसे बड़ी राजनीतिक पार्टी भारतीय जनता पार्टी के माननीय अध्यक्ष श्री जगत प्रकाश नड्डा जी, हमारे बीच उपस्थित अलग अलग देशों के मिशन के प्रतिनिधि, एम्बेसडर्स, हाई कमिश्नर्स, एक्सीलेंसीज, सभी सम्मान्य सांसदगण, यहां उपस्थित भारत के उद्योग और वाणिज्य जगत से जुड़े देश भर से आए, विशेषकर जिनका निर्यात और देश की आर्थिक जगत से संबंध है, ऐसे सभी महानुभाव जो बड़ी संख्या में आज माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का आशीर्वचन सुनने आए हैं। मीडिया के हमारे मित्रों, सभी सम्मान्य अधिकारीगण, भाइयों और बहनों, ये हम सबका बड़ा सौभाग्य है कि माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने अपने बहुत ही बिजी स्केड्यूल में से आज हम सबको रूबरू मिलने के लिए समय दिया और जो उनकी सोच है, जिस प्रकार से उन्होंने कल्पना की इस भव्य इंटरनेशनल कन्वेंशन सेंटर की, जिस प्रकार से माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने इस पूरी योजना का शिल्प के रूप में, शिल्पकार के रूप में आइडियाज दिए, आर्किटेक्चरल डिटेल में गहराई से देखा, हमें समय समय पे मार्गदर्शन दिया, बहुत तेज निगरानी रखी क्या हो रहा है इस कार्यक्रम में। और गत वर्षों के हमारे श्रमजीवियों के प्रयासों से हमारे देश के आर्किटेक्ट, हमारे देश के इंजीनियर, हमारे देश के विभिन्न कॉन्ट्रैक्टर, चाहे वो मेसन हो, चाहे वो कारपेंटर हो, सभी ने मिलकर अपने अथक परिश्रम से ये सुंदर जो पूरा कॉम्प्लेक्स, इंटरनेशनल कन्वेंशन कॉम्प्लेक्स बनाया है, मैं उसके लिए माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी और सभी जो जुड़े हुए इस प्रकल्प के साथ श्रमजीवी हैं, सभी का साधुवाद करता हूं, वंदन करता हूं। मित्रों, आज भारत मंडपम के लोकार्पण का कार्यक्रम है। ये बड़ा ऐतिहासिक दिन है क्योंकि वर्षों वर्षों से हम में से कई लोग यहाँ पे आते हैं, यहाँ पे एग्जीबिशंस रखते हैं, अटेंड करते हैं। कभी टेंट में एग्जीबिशन हो रही है, कोई पंडाल लग रहा है, अलग अलग प्रकार से हमने कठिनाइयां झेलते हुए गत लगभग 50 वर्षों से यहाँ पे एग्जीबिशंस करी, देखी, और एक प्रकार से इतने वर्षों से किसी ने ये नहीं सोचा कि इसका आधुनिकीकरण किया जाए, इसको भारत की बढ़ती हुई जो शक्ति है, जो ताकत है, इसका एक रूप में पेश किया जाए, और जो आगे आने वाला कल है उसकी जरूरतों के लिए तैयार किया जाए। ये माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की दूरदर्शी सोच है, जो उन्होंने एक कल्पना की कि अगर भारत को एक विकसित देश बनना है तो भारत की सोच भी बदलनी पड़ेगी, भारत की व्यवस्थाएं भी बदलनी पड़ेगी, और ये जो पूरा प्रकल्प बना, ये एक प्रकार से उभरते हुए भारत के प्रतीक के रूप में आज आप सबके सामने खड़ा है। मित्रों, ये जो पूरा कॉम्प्लेक्स है, यहाँ पे हमारे किसानों का उत्पादन, हमारे जो सूक्ष्म, लघु और मध्यम वर्ग के एमएसएमई सेक्टर के अलग अलग प्रोडक्ट्स बनते हैं, उन सबको हमारे आर्टिसंस, कारीगर, जिस प्रकार से देश में विभिन्न इंडस्ट्रीज को आज हमें विश्व को दिखाना है, उसके लिए ये बहुत ही उपयुक्त स्थान अब माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने आज देश को समर्पित करने का हमें समय दिया। और ये जो पूरा कॉम्प्लेक्स है, ये एक प्रकार से जो एक तरफ माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी उद्योग और व्यापार को सरल करने के लिए ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस, कंप्लायंस बर्डन कम करना, कानूनों को डीक्रिमिनलाइज करना, स्टार्टअप इंडिया को बल देना, मेक इन इंडिया को प्रोत्साहन देना, ऐसे अलग अलग योजनाओं से जिस प्रकार से भारत तेज गति से आगे बढ़ रहा है, उसी तरफ दूसरा जो पहलू है, भारत में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बने, अति आधुनिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हो, जो आगे आने वाले कल के लिए भारत की जरूरतों को पूरा कर सके। और आज अगर हम इस पूरे प्रांगण को देखें तो ये एक संगम है हमारी विरासत का, हमारी परंपराओं का, और हमारे अति आधुनिक जो क्षमताएं हैं उसको दिखाने का एक ये पूरा प्रकल्प आज माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी देश को समर्पित करेंगे। जो नाम दिया गया है भारत मंडपम, ये वास्तव में भगवान बसवेश्वर ने एक समय अनुभव मंटपा के नाम से अ पवेलियन फॉर पब्लिक सेरेमनीज, जहां जनता का दरबार लग सके, जनता कार्यक्रम कर सके, ऐसी एक कल्पना आज से लगभग 800 साल पहले भगवान बसवेश्वर ने की थी। और आज हम सबके लिए बड़ी खुशी की बात है कि उसी प्रकार का एक अनुभव मंडप, जो अलग अलग व्यक्तियों के अलग अलग विचार विमर्श करने के लिए उपलब्ध होगा, अलग अलग सुविधाओं से युक्त होगा, छोटे बड़े सबके लिए काम में आएगा, और एक अच्छा भारत का भविष्य निर्माण करने के लिए जो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने हमें 5 प्रण दिए हैं, जो एक विकसित भारत बनाने के लिए 2047 तक हम सबको कर्तव्य भावना से काम करने के लिए प्रेरणा दी है, उसके लिए आज भारत मंडपम आप सबके लिए, हम सबके लिए बहुत ही गौरव का क्षण है। हम सबको आगे के लिए नई सोच के साथ एक आधुनिक और विकसित भारत बनाने के लिए प्रोत्साहित करता है। आप सब देश के कोने कोने से यहाँ आए, आप सबका मैं धन्यवाद करता हूं, और पुनः एक बार नमन करता हूं माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का, जिन्होंने हम सबको मार्गदर्शन दिया और इस देश को आगे लेके जाने के लिए, इस देश की दिशा और दशा को बदलने के लिए दिन रात एक कर अपना पूरा जीवन देश और देशवासियों के लिए समर्पित किया है। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नमस्कार।
हार्दिक धन्यवाद माननीय केंद्रीय वाणिज्य मंत्री श्री पीयूष गोयल जी। मान्यवर, प्रत्येक कार्य को तय समय में संपूर्णता की ओर लेकर जाने की माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की सोच का ही परिणाम है भारत मंडपम, जो नए भारत की पहचान है। विश्व मंच पर भारत के बढ़ते कद का प्रतीक, वैश्विक मंच पर भारत की उपस्थिति का उद्घोष। अब मैं माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी से विनम्र अनुरोध करती हूं कि कृपया रिमोट का बटन दबाकर पट्टिका का अनावरण कर भारत मंडपम राष्ट्र को समर्पित करें।
दिल्ली के दिल में एक आधुनिक स्मार्ट शहर का प्रतिबिंब, जिसका आकार है अद्भुत और सुविधाएं वर्ल्ड क्लास, जो है तेजी से विकसित हो रहे नए भारत का नया प्रतीक। दिल्ली की पहचान, हमारा प्रगति मैदान अब अपने नए रूप में सभी के स्वागत को तैयार है। 3 नवंबर 1972 अंतर्राष्ट्रीय मेले एशिया 72 से शुरू हुआ प्रगति मैदान का सफर। तब से लेकर आज तक ये स्थल बना कई ऐतिहासिक प्रदर्शनियों का हमसफर। जब माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में देश तेजी से आगे बढ़ने लगा, तो प्रगति मैदान के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को भी 21वीं सदी के भारत के अनुरूप आधुनिक बनाने की जरूरत महसूस हुई, ताकि नए भारत में बढ़े ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस और साथ ही ईज ऑफ लिविंग।
देश की राजधानी में विश्व स्तरीय कार्यक्रमों के लिए स्टेट ऑफ द आर्ट सुविधाएं हो, एग्जीबिशन हॉल हो, इन बातों को ध्यान में रखते हुए भारत सरकार निरंतर काम कर रही है। और प्रगति मैदान में रीडेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट ये अपने आप में एक उदाहरण बनने वाले हैं।
123 एकड़ में बने इस एग्जीबिशन एंड कन्वेंशन कॉम्प्लेक्स की गिनती शंघाई और फ्रैंकफर्ट के जैसे विश्व के 10 एग्जीबिशन एंड कन्वेंशन सेंटर्स में होगी, जहां 54,000 वर्ग मीटर का एयर कंडीशनड कन्वेंशन सेंटर और 3 ओपन एम्फी थिएटर बनाए गए हैं। करीब 1.5 लाख वर्ग मीटर यानी 26 फुटबॉल फील्ड्स जितने कवर्ड एरिया में फैले प्रगति मैदान 2.0 में कुल 7 नए एग्जीबिशन हॉल्स हैं। इसके लेवल 3 पर बने हॉल में ऑस्ट्रेलिया के सिडनी ओपेरा हाउस से भी अधिक 7,000 विजिटर्स बैठ सकते हैं। भारत की अध्यक्षता में आयोजित G20 के राष्ट्राध्यक्षों की मेजबानी का गौरवपूर्ण अवसर भी इस कन्वेंशन सेंटर के समिट रूम को मिलेगा। यहाँ 116 देशों की इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस का प्रतीक सूर्य द्वार है। जीरो से इसरो तक भारतीय विज्ञान की कथा सुनाते प्रगति चक्र है। विश्व संरचना का आधार दर्शाते पंच महाभूत हैं। भारत द्वारा विश्व को समर्पित योग भी है। देश के विभिन्न प्रांतों से ली गई चुनिंदा सामग्री और कलाओं के सम्मिश्रण से बना IECC का ये भव्य रूप अपने आप में एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत का उत्तम उदाहरण है। एक तरफ जहां इस सेंटर में बड़े इंटरनेशनल इवेंट्स होंगे, वहीं हमारे देश के छोटे उद्यमी, अन्नदाता और कारीगरों द्वारा वोकल फॉर लोकल का ये मंच भी होगा। भविष्य में यहाँ होने वाले आयोजन भारत को विश्व की 5वीं से तीसरी बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बनाने में बड़ी भूमिका निभाएंगे। सभी आधुनिक सुविधाओं और लेटेस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी सपोर्ट से परिपूर्ण IECC लग्जरी, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी, लॉजिस्टिकल वायबिलिटी और सेफ्टी का एक अनोखा संगम है, जहां व्यापार को बढ़ावा मिलेगा और संभावनाओं के अनेक द्वार खुलने से रोजगार सृजन भी होगा। अतिथि देवो भवः की भावना लिए हर भारतीय का प्रतिनिधित्व करता ये कन्वेंशन सेंटर G20 के देशों के स्वागत के लिए और वसुधैव कुटुंबकम के सिद्धांत का मंच बनने के लिए तैयार है, जिसे आज माननीय प्रधानमंत्री देश को समर्पित कर रहे हैं।
भारत मंडपम देश को समर्पित करने के लिए आपका हार्दिक आभार माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी। भारत ने 1 दिसंबर 2022 में एक वर्ष के लिए G20 की अध्यक्षता ग्रहण की। इस ऐतिहासिक अवसर को चिन्हित एवं गर्वित करने के लिए आज स्मारक डाक टिकटें एवं स्मारक सिक्के जारी किए जा रहे हैं। मैं माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी से सादर अनुरोध करती हूं कि G20 पर 2 स्मारक डाक टिकटों तथा 2 स्मारक सिक्कों को रिमोट का बटन दबाकर जारी करें। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी। सर्वस्पर्शी हो विकास, सर्वहित का हो विकास, समावेशी हो विकास। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की इस अवधारणा से आज देश लाभान्वित हो रहा है। आपकी दृढ़ शक्ति हमें प्रेरणा देती है, आपके विचार हमारा मार्गदर्शन करते हैं और आपके वचन हमें नए उत्साह के साथ आगे बढ़ने की राह दिखाते हैं। मैं माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी से करबद्ध निवेदन करती हूं कि आज के इस विशेष अवसर पर कृपया अपने आशीर्वचनों से हमें अनुग्रहित करें। जोरदार तालियों से स्वागत करें माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का।
नमस्कार। एक अद्भुत दृश्य मेरे सामने है। भव्य है, विराट है, विहंगम है और ये आज का ये जो अवसर है, इसके पीछे जो कल्पना है और आज हमारी आंखों के सामने उस सपने को साकार होते हुए देख रहे हैं, तब मुझे एक प्रसिद्ध कविता की पंक्तियां गुनगुनाने का मन करता है। नया प्रात है, नया प्रात है, नई बात है, नई किरण है, ज्योति नई, नई उमंगे, नई तरंगे, नई आस है, सांस नई। उठो धरा के अमर सपूतों, उठो धरा के अमर सपूतों, पुनः नया निर्माण करो, जन जन के जीवन में फिर से नई स्फूर्ति, नव प्राण भरो। आज के ये दिव्य और भव्य भारत मंडपम, उसे देख करके हर भारतीय खुशी से भर रहा है, आनंदित है और गर्व महसूस कर रहा है। भारत मंडपम आह्वान है भारत के सामर्थ्य का, भारत की नई ऊर्जा का। भारत मंडपम दर्शन है और भारत की भव्यता का और भारत की इच्छा शक्ति का। कोरोना के कठिन काल में जब हर तरफ काम रुका हुआ था, हमारे देश के श्रमजीवियों ने दिन रात मेहनत करके इसका निर्माण पूरा किया है। भारत मंडपम के निर्माण से जुड़े हर श्रमिक भाई बहन को, हर कर्मी को आज सच्चे हृदय से मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं, उनका साधुवाद करता हूं। आज सुबह मुझे इन सभी श्रमजीवियों से मिलने का मौका मिला था। हमारे इन श्रमिक साथियों को सम्मानित करने का मुझे सौभाग्य मिला था। आज उनकी मेहनत देख पूरा भारत विस्मित है, भारत चकित है। मैं राजधानी दिल्ली के लोगों को, देश के लोगों को इस नए इंटरनेशनल कन्वेंशन सेंटर भारत मंडपम की बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। यहां देश के कोने कोने से अतिथि आए हैं, मैं उन सबका हृदय से स्वागत करता हूं। टीवी के माध्यम से, सोशल मीडिया के माध्यम से जो करोड़ों लोग इस वक्त हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, मैं उनका भी अभिनंदन करता हूं। साथियों, आज का दिन वैसे भी हर देशवासी के लिए बहुत ऐतिहासिक है। आज कारगिल विजय दिवस है। देश के दुश्मनों ने जो दुस्साहस दिखाया था, उसे मां भारती के बेटे बेटियों ने अपने पराक्रम से परास्त कर दिया था। कारगिल युद्ध में अपना बलिदान देने वाले प्रत्येक वीर को मैं कृतज्ञ राष्ट्र की तरफ से श्रद्धांजलि देता हूं। साथियों, भारत मंडपम के इस नाम के पीछे, और जैसा अभी पीयूष जी ने बताया, भगवान बसवेश्वर के अनुभव मंडपम की प्रेरणा है। अनुभव मंडपम यानी वाद और संवाद की लोकतांत्रिक पद्धति। अनुभव मंडपम यानी अभिव्यक्ति, अभिमत। आज दुनिया ये स्वीकार कर रही है कि भारत मदर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी है। तमिलनाडु के उत्तरा मेरूर में मिले शिलालेखों से लेकर वैशाली तक भारत की वाइब्रेंट डेमोक्रेसी सदियों से हमारा गौरव रही है। आज जब हम आजादी के 75 वर्ष होने पर अमृत महोत्सव मना रहे हैं, तो ये भारत मंडपम हम भारतीयों द्वारा अपने लोकतंत्र को दिया एक खूबसूरत उपहार है। कुछ हफ्तों बाद यहीं पर G20 से जुड़े आयोजन होंगे। दुनिया के बड़े बड़े देशों के राष्ट्राध्यक्ष यहां उपस्थित होंगे। भारत के बढ़ते हुए कदम और भारत का बढ़ता हुआ कद, इस भव्य भारत मंडप से पूरी दुनिया देखेगी। साथियों, आज पूरी दुनिया इंटरकनेक्टेड है, इंटरडिपेंडेंट है और वैश्विक स्तर पर विभिन्न कार्यक्रमों और समिट्स की श्रृंखला लगातार चलती रहती है। ऐसे कार्यक्रम कभी एक देश में तो कभी दूसरे देश में होते हैं। ऐसे में भारत में देश की राजधानी दिल्ली में अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर का एक कन्वेंशन सेंटर होना बहुत ही जरूरी था। यहां जो व्यवस्था थी, जो हॉल्स थे, वो कई दशक पहले यहां बने थे। पिछली शताब्दी की वो पुरानी व्यवस्था 21वीं सदी के भारत के साथ कदमताल नहीं कर पा रही थी। 21वीं सदी के भारत में हमें 21वीं सदी की आवश्यकताओं को पूरा करने वाला निर्माण करना ही होगा। इसलिए ये भव्य निर्माण, ये भारत मंडपम आज मेरे देशवासियों के सामने है, आपके सामने है। भारत मंडपम देश विदेश के बड़े बड़े एग्जीबिटर्स को मदद करेगा। भारत मंडपम देश में कॉन्फ्रेंस टूरिज्म का बहुत बड़ा जरिया बनेगा। भारत मंडपम हमारे स्टार्टअप्स की शक्ति को शोकेस करने का माध्यम बनेगा। भारत मंडपम हमारे सिनेमा जगत, हमारे आर्टिस्ट के परफॉर्मेंस का साक्षी बनेगा। भारत मंडपम हमारे हस्तशिल्पियों, कारीगरों, बुनकरों के परिश्रम को प्लेटफॉर्म देने का एक महत्वपूर्ण माध्यम बनने वाला है। और भारत मंडपम आत्मनिर्भर भारत और वोकल फॉर लोकल अभियान का प्रतिबिंब बनेगा। यानी इकोनॉमी से इकोलॉजी तक, ट्रेड से टेक्नोलॉजी तक, ऐसे हर आयोजन के लिए ये विशाल परिश्रम और ये विशाल परिसर, ये भारत मंडपम बहुत बड़ा मंच बनेगा। साथियों, भारत मंडपम जैसी इस व्यवस्था का निर्माण कई दशक पहले हो जाना चाहिए था, लेकिन शायद मुझे लगता है बहुत से कार्य काम मेरे हाथ में ही लिखे हुए हैं। और हम देखें, दुनिया में किसी देश में अगर एक ओलंपिक समिट होता है, पूरी दुनिया में उस देश का प्रोफाइल एकदम से बदल जाता है। आज के विश्व में इन चीजों का महात्म्य बहुत बड़ा हो गया है और देश का प्रोफाइल भी बहुत मायने रखता है। और ऐसी ही व्यवस्थाएं हैं जो कुछ न कुछ उसमें वैल्यू एडिशन करती है। लेकिन हमारे देश में कुछ अलग सोच के लोग भी हैं। नकारात्मक सोच वालों की कोई कमी तो है नहीं हमारे यहां। इस निर्माण को रोकने के लिए भी नकारात्मक सोच वालों ने क्या क्या कोशिशें नहीं की। खूब तूफान मचाया गया, अदालतों के चक्कर काटे गए, लेकिन जहां सत्य होता है वहां ईश्वर भी होता है। लेकिन अब ये सुंदर परिसर आपकी आंखों के सामने मौजूद है। दरअसल कुछ लोगों की फितरत होती है हर अच्छे काम को रोकने की, टोकने की। अब आपको याद होगा जब कर्तव्य पथ बन रहा था तो न जाने क्या क्या कथाएं चल रही थी। फ्रंट पेज पर ब्रेकिंग न्यूज में क्या कुछ चल रहा था। अदालत में भी न जाने कितने मामले उठाए गए थे। लेकिन जब अब कर्तव्य पथ बन गया, वे लोग भी दबी जुबान में कहने लगे, यार अच्छा हुआ है, कुछ देश की शोभा बढ़ाने वाला है। और मुझे विश्वास है कुछ समय बाद भारत मंडपम के लिए भी वो टोली खुल करके बोले या ना बोले, लेकिन भीतर से तो स्वीकार करेगी। और हो सकता है किसी एक समारोह में यहां आकर के लेक्चर देने भी आ जाएंगे। फ्रेंड्स, कोई भी देश हो, कोई भी समाज हो, वह टुकड़ों में सोचकर, टुकड़ों में काम करके आगे नहीं बढ़ सकता। आज ये कन्वेंशन सेंटर, ये भारत मंडपम इस बात का भी गवाह है कि हमारी सरकार कैसे होलिस्टिक तरीके से बहुत दूर की सोचकर काम कर रही है। इस जैसे सेंटर्स में आना आसान हो, देश विदेश की बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियां यहां आ सके, इसलिए आज भारत 160 से ज्यादा देशों को ई कॉन्फ्रेंस वीजा भी की सुविधा दे रहा है। यानी सिर्फ ये बनाया ऐसा नहीं है, पूरी सप्लाई चेन, सिस्टम चेन, उसकी व्यवस्था की है। 2014 में दिल्ली एयरपोर्ट की कैपेसिटी भी सालाना करीब 5 करोड़ यात्रियों को हैंडल करने की थी। आज ये भी बढ़कर सालाना 7.5 करोड़ पैसेंजर हो चुकी है। टर्मिनल 2 और चौथा रनवे भी शुरू हो चुका है। ग्रेटर नोएडा के जेवर में इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट शुरू होने के बाद इसे और शक्ति मिलेगी। बीते वर्षों में दिल्ली एनसीआर में हॉस्पिटैलिटी इंडस्ट्री, होटल इंडस्ट्री का भी काफी विस्तार हुआ है। यानी कॉन्फ्रेंस टूरिज्म के लिए एक पूरा इकोसिस्टम बनाने का हमने बिल्कुल प्लान वे में प्रयास किया है। साथियों, इसके अलावा भी यहां राजधानी दिल्ली में भी बीते वर्षों में जो निर्माण हुए हैं वो देश का गौरव बढ़ा रहे हैं। कौन भारतीय होगा जिसका सर देश की नई संसद देख करके ऊंचा नहीं होगा। आज दिल्ली में नेशनल वॉर मेमोरियल है, पुलिस मेमोरियल है, बाबा साहब आंबेडकर मेमोरियल है। आज कर्तव्य पथ के आसपास सरकार के आधुनिक ऑफिसेस, दफ्तर, उस पर बहुत तेजी से काम चल रहा है। हमें वर्क कल्चर भी बदलना है, वर्क एनवायरनमेंट भी बदलना है। आप सब ने देखा होगा प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स म्यूजियम से आज नई पीढ़ी को देश के सभी पूर्व प्रधानमंत्रियों के बारे में वहां जानने का मौका मिल रहा है। जल्द ही दिल्ली में, और ये भी आप लोगों के लिए खुशखबरी होगी, दुनिया के लिए भी खुशखबरी होगी, जल्द ही दिल्ली में दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा, और जब मैं कहता हूं दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा, मतलब दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा, दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा म्यूजियम युगे युगीन भारत भी बनने जा रहा है। साथियों, आज पूरी दुनिया भारत की ओर देख रही है। भारत आज वो हासिल कर रहा है जो पहले अकल्पनीय था, कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता था। विकसित होने के लिए हमें बड़ा सोचना ही होगा, बड़े लक्ष्य हासिल करने ही होंगे। इसलिए थिंक बिग, ड्रीम बिग, एक्ट बिग, इस सिद्धांत को अपनाते हुए भारत आज तेजी से आगे बढ़ रहा है। और कहा भी गया है, इतने ऊंचे उठो कि, इतने ऊंचे उठो कि जितना उठा गगन है। हम पहले से बड़ा निर्माण कर रहे हैं, हम पहले से बेहतर निर्माण कर रहे हैं, हम पहले से तेज गति से निर्माण कर रहे हैं। पूर्व से लेकर पश्चिम तक, उत्तर से लेकर दक्षिण तक भारत का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बदल रहा है। दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा सोलर विंड पार्क आज भारत में बन रहा है। दुनिया का सबसे ऊंचा रेल ब्रिज आज भारत में है। 10,000 फीट से अधिक की ऊंचाई पर दुनिया की सबसे लंबी टनल आज भारत में है। दुनिया की सबसे ऊंची मोटरेबल रोड आज भारत में है। दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा क्रिकेट स्टेडियम आज भारत में है। दुनिया की सबसे ऊंची प्रतिमा आज भारत में है। एशिया का दूसरा सबसे बड़ा रेल रोड ब्रिज भी भारत में है। आज भारत दुनिया के उन देशों में है जहां ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन पर इतना बड़ा काम हो रहा है। साथियों, आज हमारी सरकार के स्तंभ और पिछले टर्म के कार्यों का परिणाम पूरा देश देख रहा है। आज देश का विश्वास पक्का हो गया है कि अब भारत की विकास यात्रा रुकने वाली नहीं है। आप जानते हैं कि हमारे पहले टर्म की शुरुआत में भारत वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी में 10वें नंबर पे था। जब मुझे आप लोगों ने काम दिया तो हम अब 10 नंबर ही थे। दूसरे टर्म में आज भारत दुनिया की 5वीं सबसे बड़ी इकोनॉमी है। और ये ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड के आधार पर, बातों बातों में नहीं, ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड के आधार पर मैं कह रहा हूं, मैं देश को ये भी विश्वास दिलाऊंगा कि तीसरे टर्म में दुनिया की पहली 3 इकोनॉमीज में एक नाम भारत का होगा। यानी तीसरे टर्म में पहली 3 इकोनॉमी में हिंदुस्तान खड़ा होगा। दोस्तों, टॉप 3 इकोनॉमी पे पहुंच के रहेगा भारत। और ये मोदी की गारंटी है। मैं देशवासियों को ये भी विश्वास दिलाऊंगा कि 2024 के बाद हमारे तीसरे टर्म में देश की विकास यात्रा और तेजी से बढ़ेगी। और मेरे तीसरे कार्यकाल में आप अपने सपने अपनी आंखों के सामने पूरे होते देखेंगे। आज भारत में नवनिर्माण की क्रांति चल रही है। बीते 9 साल में भारत में आधुनिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के निर्माण के लिए करीब करीब 34 लाख करोड़ रुपए खर्च किए गए हैं। 34 लाख करोड़। इस साल के बजट में भी कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर 10 लाख करोड़ रुपए रखा गया है। नए एयरपोर्ट, नए एक्सप्रेसवे, नए रेल रूट, नए ब्रिज, नए अस्पताल, आज भारत जिस स्पीड और स्केल पर काम कर रहा है, यह वाकई अभूतपूर्व है। 70 साल में, ये और मैं किसी की आलोचना करने के लिए नहीं कह रहा हूं, लेकिन हिसाब किताब के लिए कुछ रेफरेंस जरूरी होता है। और इसलिए मैं उस रेफरेंस के आधार पर बात कर रहा हूं। 70 साल में भारत में सिर्फ 20,000 किलोमीटर के आसपास रेल लाइनों का इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन हुआ था। 20,000 किलोमीटर, जबकि पिछले 9 साल में भारत में करीब करीब 40,000 किलोमीटर रेल लाइनों का इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन हुआ है। दो 2014 से पहले हमारे देश में हर महीने सिर्फ 600 मीटर, किलोमीटर मत समझना, सिर्फ 600 मीटर नई मेट्रो लाइन बिछाई जा रही थी। आज भारत में हर महीने 6 किलोमीटर नई मेट्रो लाइन का काम पूरा हो रहा है। दो 2014 से पहले देश में 4 लाख किलोमीटर से भी कम ग्रामीण सड़कें थी। आज देश में 7.25 लाख किलोमीटर से भी ज्यादा ग्रामीण सड़कें हैं। 2014 से पहले देश में करीब करीब 70 के आसपास ही हमारे एयरपोर्ट थे, 70। आज देश में एयरपोर्ट्स की संख्या भी बढ़कर 150 के आसपास पहुंच रही है। 2014 से पहले देश में सिटी गैस डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम भी सिर्फ 60 शहरों में था, 60। अब देश में सिटी गैस डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम 600 से भी ज्यादा शहरों में पहुंच गया। साथियों, बदलता हुआ भारत आज पुरानी चुनौतियों को समाप्त करते हुए आगे बढ़ रहा है। हम समस्याओं के स्थायी समाधान पर, परमानेंट सॉल्यूशन पर जोर दे रहे हैं। और इसका एक उदाहरण पीएम गति शक्ति नेशनल मास्टर प्लान भी है। यहां उद्योग जगत के साथी बैठे हैं, मैं चाहूंगा कि आप जाकर उस पोर्टल को देखिए। देश में रेल, रोड जैसे फिजिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए, स्कूल बनाने हो, हॉस्पिटल बनाने हो, ऐसे सोशल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए पीएम गति शक्ति नेशनल मास्टर प्लान एक बहुत बड़ा गेम चेंजर साबित होने जा रहा है। इसमें अलग अलग लेयर के 1600 से ज्यादा अलग अलग लेयर्स के डेटा उसके अंदर डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म पर लाया गया है। कोशिश यही है देश का समय और देश का पैसा पहले की तरह बर्बाद ना हो। साथियों, आज भारत के सामने बहुत बड़ा अवसर है। आज से 100 साल पहले, मैं पिछली शताब्दी की बात कर रहा हूं, आज से 100 साल पहले जब भारत आजादी की जंग लड़ रहा था, तो वो पिछली शताब्दी का तीसरा दशक मैं आपका ध्यान आकर्षित करना चाहता हूं। 1923-1930 का वो कालखंड याद कीजिए। पिछली शताब्दी का तीसरा दशक भारत की आजादी के लिए बहुत अहम था। इसी प्रकार 21वीं सदी का ये तीसरा दशक भी उतना ही महत्वपूर्ण है। पिछली शताब्दी के तीसरे दशक में ललक थी, लक्ष्य था स्वराज्य का। आज लक्ष्य है समृद्ध भारत का, विकसित भारत बनाने का। उस तीसरे दशक में देश आजादी के लिए निकल पड़ा था। देश के कोने कोने से आजादी की गूंज सुनाई देती थी। स्वराज आंदोलन की सभी धाराएं, सभी विचार, चाहे वो क्रांति का मार्ग हो या असहयोग का मार्ग हो, सारे मार्ग पूर्ण रूप से जागरूक थे, ऊर्जा से भरे हुए थे। इसी का परिणाम था कि इसके 25 साल के भीतर भीतर देश आजाद हो गया। आजादी का हमारा सपना साकार हुआ और इस शताब्दी के इस तीसरे दशक में हमारे सामने अगले 25 साल का लक्ष्य है। हम समर्थ भारत का सपना लेकर, विकसित भारत का सपना लेकर निकल पड़े हैं। हमें भारत को वो ऊंचाई देनी है, उस सफलता पर पहुंचाना है जिसका सपना हर स्वतंत्रता सेनानी ने देखा था। हमें इस संकल्प की सिद्धि के लिए सभी देशवासियों ने, 140 करोड़ हिंदुस्तानियों ने दिन रात एक कर देना है। और साथियों, मैं अनुभव से कहता हूं, मैंने एक के बाद एक सफलताओं को अपनी आंखों के सामने देखा है। मैंने देश की शक्ति को भली भांति समझा है, देश के सामर्थ्य को जाना है और उसके आधार पर मैं कहता हूं, बड़े विश्वास से कहता हूं, भारत मंडपम में खड़े होकर के ये सुज्ञ जनों के सामने कहता हूं, भारत विकसित हो सकता है, अवश्य हो सकता है। भारत गरीबी दूर कर सकता है, जरूर कर सकता है। और मेरे इस विश्वास के पीछे जो आधार है वो भी मैं आज आपको बताना चाहता हूं। नीति आयोग की रिपोर्ट में सामने आया है कि भारत में सिर्फ 5 साल में 13.5 करोड़ लोग गरीबी से बाहर निकले हैं। 5 साल में। और भी अंतर्राष्ट्रीय एजेंसियां भी ये कह रही हैं कि भारत में अति गरीबी जो है, एक्सट्रीम पॉवर्टी, वो खत्म होने के कगार पर हो रहे हैं। यानी बीते 9 वर्षों में देश ने जो नीतियां बनाई है, जो निर्णय लिए हैं, वो देश को सही दिशा में ले जा रहे हैं। साथियों, देश का विकास तभी हो सकता है जब नीयत साफ हो, नीति सही हो, देश में सार्थक परिवर्तन लाने के लिए उपयुक्त नीति हो। भारत की प्रेसिडेंसी के दौरान पूरे देश में हो रहे G20 के आयोजन भी इसका एक प्रेरक उदाहरण है। हमने G20 को सिर्फ एक शहर एक स्थान तक सीमित नहीं रखा। हम G20 की बैठकों को देश के 50 से ज्यादा शहरों में ले गए। हमने इसके माध्यम से भारत की विविधता को शोकेस किया है। हमने दुनिया को दिखाया कि भारत की सांस्कृतिक शक्ति क्या है, भारत की विरासत क्या है, विविधताओं के बीच भी भारत किस प्रकार से प्रगति कर रहा है, भारत किस प्रकार से विविधता को सेलिब्रेट करता है। आज दुनिया भर से लोग इन आयोजनों में हिस्सा लेने के लिए भारत आ रहे हैं। G20 की बैठकों के लिए अनेक शहरों में नई सुविधाओं का निर्माण हुआ, पुरानी सुविधाओं का आधुनिकीकरण हुआ। इससे देश का फायदा हुआ, देश के लोगों का फायदा हुआ। और यही तो सुशासन है, यही तो गुड गवर्नेंस है। नेशन फर्स्ट, सिटीजन फर्स्ट की भावना पर चलते हुए ही हम भारत को विकसित भारत बनाने वाले हैं। साथियों, इस महत्वपूर्ण अवसर पर आप सबका यहां आना ये अपने आप में आपके दिल के कोने में भी भारत के ये जो सपने पड़े हैं ना, उन सपनों को खाद पानी देने का ही अवसर है जी। एक बार फिर भारत मंडपम जैसी शानदार सुविधा के लिए दिल्ली के लोगों को, देश के लोगों को मैं बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। और इतनी बड़ी तादाद में आप आए, मैं आपका फिर से एक बार स्वागत और अभिनंदन करता हूं। धन्यवाद।
आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी। आपके उत्प्रेरक उद्बोधन के लिए आपका हृदय से आभार। देश को पुनः परम वैभव की ओर ले जाने को समर्पित विकास सुशासन के नए युग की नींव रखकर विकास के नए अध्याय का प्रारंभ करने वाले, विश्व मंच पर भारत की साख को बढ़ाने वाले हमारे देश के सर्वप्रिय माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का हार्दिक आभार। आप सबसे अनुरोध करूंगी, आप सब लोग कृपया अपने अपने स्थान पर बने रहें। जब आप सब यहाँ से प्रस्थान करें तो कृपया इस बात का ध्यान रखें कि आप जिस द्वार से आए हैं उसी द्वार से, उसी राह से बाहर जाएंगे। और आपके आगे जो लोग अगली सीटों पर बैठे हैं, आप कृपया प्रस्थान करने के लिए उन्हें प्राथमिकता दें। पहले उन्हें जाने।
Presented by RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, Growing Legacies.
Co-presented by Century Ply Club Prime, Raho Befikar.
Co-presented by Macho Hind, बड़े आराम से.
Co-powered by the new Kia Seltos, the badass reborn.
Co-powered by Sera. This is your space. Play it your way.
Hello and welcome. We're living in the age of AI, and one of the biggest questions at this moment is how should artificial intelligence be regulated? How fast can AI be allowed to grow? And what's the role that big tech needs to play in ensuring that artificial intelligence doesn't grow in a way that it becomes dangerous for mankind? To talk about some of the most pressing issues of the day, I'm joined in the capital Sundar Nursery by one of the top voices on global tech, the head of Meta's Global Affairs. Nick Clegg, welcome to Delhi, welcome to the Sundar Nursery, and thank you for joining us out here.
It's wonderful to be here.
It's lovely to have you with us. I want to start by talking to you, Nick Clegg, about artificial intelligence and the manner in which it is capturing global imagination. And the biggest question of them all, who should regulate artificial intelligence? At Meta, sitting where you are in your global perch, how are you looking at this key question?
The first thing to say is AI is not new. It's been around for decades. There's a lot of hype at the moment around something called generative AI. Do you remember when ChatGPT burst onto the scene and you can ask it to write your school history essay or your wedding speech and it produces this beautiful text? And that, of course, has captured imagination. But I think it's somewhat obscured the reality that AI has been around for years. I mean, at Meta, for instance, we've been using AI for ages. Anything you see on Facebook or Instagram has in one way or another been touched by AI already. I think how to regulate them is a question of first working out what harms and problems you're trying to deal with. Is it intellectual property and copyright? Is it misinformation? And then ask yourself whether the current laws we have on the statute book are sufficient or not. And I suspect it'll be a mixture of the two. Some of the existing laws we have will be able to be applied to AI and some new laws will be required. I hope, this is my hope, that as those new laws develop, they're developed as internationally as possible. Because this technology, it's very important to remember, this technology is bigger than any country, bigger than any company, so it needs to be dealt with together.
But when it comes to international regulation, different countries seem to be proceeding at different speeds.
Yeah.
In Europe, we're already seeing a far more robust regulatory framework than there is in the United States and even in India. And therefore, in India, we're still debating the privacy bill, which comes up in the monsoon session if the opposition were to allow it. And there is already an urgent need to be regulating AI. So what you're saying in principle sounds correct, but in reality, how do you see that being implemented?
I think there is as much a danger, interestingly enough, in rushing to regulate something that maybe hasn't been sort of properly analysed yet than there is about being too slow. So being too fast can also create problems because it means that you suffocate a lot of the innovation that will come from AI, or that at least would be the risk, which would be a great shame particularly for countries like India. I mean, India, it's not a question of if, it is a question of when India becomes one of the great digital superpowers of the world. It already has the world's second largest community of developers, and there are fantastic innovators, entrepreneurs, developers in India who are using AI today, and I think that culture of innovation, which is so strong in India, for which India is sort of globally famous, is something you don't want to sort of stymie by rushing to pass laws when it's not always obvious that new laws are necessarily the answer. I do think new laws will be necessary, but I think it's no bad thing to take a little bit of time to get it right.
That's the big tech view on it. A lot of AI practitioners, including those who've been involved in developing the field of artificial intelligence, have come out, passed resolutions demanding that there be an immediate pause on further development till the time regulators, government, society, citizens can understand the power of what has been unleashed. Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that's a bad idea? Are we moving too fast?
Well, interesting that they're not saying that too much anymore. They were a couple of months ago. This debate is moving so quickly. I think there was a sort of eruption of existential concern. 2 or 3 months ago, when there was this view that AI, as I said earlier, could develop a kind of agency, an autonomy, a kind of capacity to think and develop plans of its own to replicate itself. But I think the more people have now calmly looked at the AI models that we have today, right now, I think people have kind of recognized that actually the models we have right now are far, far, far short of and nowhere near as powerful as that somewhat apocalyptic future suggests. Now, it may materialize, in which case it's a good thing we've had this debate at this stage. But right now, in terms of the capacity of what even the most advanced AI models can do, they don't have the the autonomy and agency that we as human beings have. They're not going to suddenly turn on the human race in a way that I think was somewhat breathlessly suggested a few months ago.
A few years ago, Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook pivoted from Facebook to Meta. You were drawing out this grand vision of a metaverse, whereas the real revolution seems to have been in artificial intelligence. While you have been working in that sphere, would you accept that Meta was caught off guard? You were building one castle in the air, which is still looking like a castle in the air. You're moving incrementally towards your vision of Meta, whereas the real game seems to have been another one where you're now trying to catch up, but would you accept being caught off guard?
No, not really, on several counts. Firstly, you can't build the so-called metaverse. What does the metaverse mean? The metaverse basically means like a sort of immersive internet. So instead of looking at something on your phone, you're actually wearing glasses and you're communicating with people in avatar or even eventually in hologram form. You can't build that without AI. They're umbilically linked. And that's the reason why, far from catching up, we've actually been leaders in AI research for years. I mean, over the last decade, Meta has open sourced, shared over 1,000 AI databases and models, including, by the way, very powerful AI models, which help with the translation, the automatic translation of many languages, including the numerous languages in India. And we just last week did something which none of the big US tech companies have done so far, is that we have open sourced our latest large language model called Llama 2. What does that mean? That means that any academic, any researcher, any developer, any entrepreneur, any budding business person here in India, instead of having to build at the expense of billions of US dollars, their own large language model, because it's a very expensive thing to do. You need a huge amount of compute power and capacity, which generally only the very big tech companies have at the moment. You can literally just download the large language model yourself. You can download it from Azure on Microsoft or from Amazon or directly from the internet. It runs directly on Windows, and then you can innovate and you can create new large language, you can create new tools in financial services, in education, in health. I think that approach to open innovation is something we've always believed in, and I think will really help going forward as well.
But as you make more and more things available in an open source, the concern that raises is not just the good actors that you spoke about, but the potential of that open source technology then being misused by bad actors and then being put into play with the power of the computing that it brings to do very dangerous things. How are you trying to safeguard against that?
I think it is undoubtedly true that any technology, whether it's a car, whether it's the internet itself, whether it's emails, whether it's radio, any technology, it can be used by good people to do good things and bad people to do bad things. It is generally accepted that if you open these technologies so that you create a kind of wisdom of crowds, you actually over time you make it safer, because it means that people can stress test these systems, they can look for flaws and failings, which the companies just working on their own, playing kind of whack-a-mole with their own systems, actually aren't nearly as good as lots of innovators. And by the way, it's one of the reasons why I think it's next month we are submitting our new large language models to something called DEF CON in Las Vegas, where a whole bunch of hackers come to town and they try and do as much sort of damage as they can. They probe these systems. I think that's a kind of open, innovative way of trying to make sure that these systems are not only really productive, but that they are as safe as they possibly can be.
From artificial intelligence, for a moment, I want to shift attention to Threads, which has gathered so much chatter over the past few days after its launch. And the question that while it launched with a lot of hype, user engagement and daily active users now seems to have come down quite a bit from the initial numbers. How are you seeing the manner in which Threads is playing itself out? What's the user case? What does it do different, which makes me, for example, want to move away from Twitter and come to Threads?
So look, I mean, firstly, when you get new apps, you always get this. There's a sort of eruption of interest. Lots of people kind of try and use it 2 or 3 times, and then it falls off a bit as the people who are not going to be regular users kind of move on, and then you kind of get a core base of users, and then you build from that. And we've done that before, multiple times on Instagram, on Facebook, with new features. And remember, Threads is a how can I put it? It's a sort of work in progress. There are lots of new features which haven't been built yet, which we will introduce over time. So that's not. I mean, that in a sense, we've done that before. We'll do it again. You get these kind of curves in the graph, if I can put it like that. But why do Threads? Well, because I think there are just a lot of people who are looking for a micro-blogging site where they can share news and views and kind of debate with people about stuff, whether it's about fashion or whether it's about sport, particularly when it's led by people you admire, creators, influencers, and so on, who don't necessarily find Twitter particularly attractive right now and want something which is a slightly kinder alternative, if I can put it like that. Sorry, it's not called Twitter anymore; it's called X, isn't it? So there's always there's space for more than one of those kind of micro-blogging sites. The interesting thing about Threads is we're building it very, very differently to things like Twitter. We're actually building it so that it will become part of something called the Fediverse, where you will be able to interoperably share your content on Mastodon, for instance. So it'll be a much more open platform where people will be able to share content across different sites. So it's not a sort of closed, walled garden. And we think that's going to be really interesting to see how that develops over time.
Because of the manner in which the data privacy around Facebook played itself out, for a while Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg became the bad boys of big tech. In the manner in which Elon Musk has taken over Twitter, turned it into X, do you think Elon Musk's actions make all of you at Meta look far more statesman-like, far more reasonable in some ways? He's giving Meta and your company a new lease of life by making Meta cool again.
Do you know, we don't spend too much of our time kind of looking over our shoulders at what other people are doing. What Elon Musk does is he's clearly a strong-willed character who's used to getting his own way. Is up to him. We focus on what we think is good for the billions of people who use our apps. And the wonderful thing is that more and more human beings around the planet are using our apps. I keep reading the papers, Facebook is something of the past. In fact, more human beings now use Facebook today than ever before. And you look at particularly the initial popularity of Threads, there's a real appetite for people to try out new ways of communicating with each other, reaching out to friends and family, debating things that they care about. And look, whether it's on building the new computing platform, so that we're building the kind of hardware, so that you can instead of actually having to be with each other here physically as we are, if in the future
we could do it on the metaverse.
Yeah, in the future, you and I could walk in a virtual path. And by the way, because it already works like that, that the sound technology is so good, you really do think you're breathing the kind of same air, even if you might be thousands of miles apart. Whether it's that, whether it's Threads, whether it's all the innovations on Facebook, whether it's all the kind of fun and delight on Instagram, we will continue to innovate to appeal to something which is very visceral to all of us, which is how to communicate as human beings.
On a lighter note, about that cage match, as somebody looking at it, what's your wager? Is that a metaphor?
Oh my gosh, I've only got one answer if it happens. Of course, Mark Zuckerberg will win, and he's super fit, and he's really into fitness, is really into these sports, into Brazilian jiu-jitsu and MMA and so on. Yeah, but listen, I think, I don't know, I don't do it myself, but I think a lot of this is about technique, not just about size. Whether it'll actually happen or not, I honestly, I don't know.
On the issue of innovation, one of the concerns, and I'm curious what your thoughts on this are, is a lot of what Meta has done of late, whether it's Reels, whether it's Stories, whether it is Threads, seems to have been taken from somewhere where you adopted the idea, scaled it up, gave it volume, made it successful. But it isn't genuine innovation in the way that OpenAI did, or maybe some of the things that we've seen with Apple and Google. How founded or unfounded is this? How do you respond to this?
I don't think that's right at all. I don't think anyone can say that Facebook itself is not been one of the most innovative technologies over the last decade and a half. Our huge investments now in building a new computing platform is something that we're pioneering in a way that nobody else is. And by the way, look, like car manufacturers will look at each other's products. The shirt you're wearing, your shirt manufacturer will be looking at other people. I mean, of course, people compare notes and see what is sort of moving and shaking in the market. But if you look at our big bets, whether it's our big bets on our social media platforms, whether it's our big bet on the metaverse, or indeed whether it's our long-standing investment in AI well before it became a major talking point. And just to give you an example of that, one of the foundational sort of technologies that everybody now in the AI industry uses is called PyTorch. That is something that Facebook engineers and researchers came up with. It's one of the foundational AI libraries, if I can put it like that, that everybody uses. So, look, I think you can both innovate whilst at the same time, of course, look at how people use technology as it evolves, and then evolve yourself, and that's exactly what we do as a company.
You handle public policy at Meta, and one of the big concerns in India is around the next general elections. We saw in the past in the United States, elsewhere in India, Facebook becoming a tool in the election fight. What are the lessons that you've learned globally and from your past experience in India about ensuring that Facebook is as fair, as bipartisan a platform building up to the next general elections?
So look, as you say, we have an immense amount of experience now about how elections play out on our platform, and it's worth remembering, elections take place around the world all the time. All the time. I think there are about 200 elections which have played out on Facebook and on our platforms over the last period of time. And look, much of the reason why people use Facebook is not actually about politics. It's not actually about elections. I mean, if you look at the total content on Facebook, I think it's now less than 3% is to do with kind of news and current affairs and so on. And yet, of course, we need to ensure that when people want to share political content and when there's the kind of all the arguments and the back and forth, that is done, as you say, firstly, that we are a neutral, as far as political opinions are concerned, we are a sort of neutral arbiter. Of course we are. We're a tech company. We're not a political party. But crucially, that it's done as safely and sensibly as possible. We now have dedicated teams. We use AI, as it happens, in an exceptionally sophisticated way, I would argue, in an industry-leading way, in order to, for instance, detect any signs of foreign interference in elections on our platform. And we're determined to do this all over again here in India in the forthcoming Indian elections, much as we are in the United Kingdom elections next year or the US presidential elections next year as well. This is a constant, always-on kind of work for us.
The founder of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, said recently and created quite a stir in India when he suggested that there is greater interference from the Indian government on posts which are not favorable to the establishment than there is in other liberal democracies. What's been the Meta experience?
Look, we are present around the world, and we work with governments around the world. We're a law-abiding company. We will obviously abide by the local laws as they are stipulated. We also have our own standards, our own community standards, where we literally list and we revise these standards and update them all the time with a panel of international experts, where we lay out all the areas of the kind of content we don't want on our platform: harassment, bullying, copyright abuse, hate speech, and we also publish every 12 weeks, along with our financial results, exactly how much content we take down, under what category, do we find it ourselves or is it reported to us? So I think what we have developed over time, regardless of governments as they come and go, is a sort of a balance, if you like, where we obviously abide by the local laws in any country in which we operate, but also operate as transparently as possible about what's going on our platform. And in a sense, I don't think there's much more that we can reasonably be asked to do.
You're a politician, and you have the ability
I'm not a politician. I was once a politician.
Navigate tricky questions very smoothly. It didn't really answer my question. When it comes to interference from the government, is there more or less similar amount of interference as there in other countries?
No, I don't answer that because I don't have a sort of league table in my head about. But one thing I can tell you is there are plenty of other jurisdictions, non-democracies, for instance, where there's far more aggressive pressure placed on social media platforms such as ourselves than there are in a vibrant, raucous democracy such as India. It doesn't mean that in my interactions with ministers here in Delhi and elsewhere, we don't have disagreements about this law or that provision. But that's the normal give and take between a private sector company, even a big one such as Meta, and the sovereign right of every government, particularly the government of, perhaps most especially the government of this great country, India, to make rules which sort of suit the local conditions of India itself.
You'd mentioned the need for global regulation. Yeah. In India, through the data privacy bill, which is going to be introduced, the focus is on data localization, ensuring that Indian data stays in India, because this is, after all, the age of data. Given these two contrasting impulses, how do you see the data privacy debate in India in the way that it's shaped up till this moment?
Well, I haven't seen the latest version of the legislation you referred to, but I very much hope that legislation will not include provisions to sort of, how can I put it, sort of divide up the data cake. Because, remember, one of the great things about the internet, or particularly the internet outside China, I should say, is that it is so open. It is so fluid. It doesn't recognize, in a sense, it doesn't recognize geography. The internet is something which everyone can relish and partake in and build businesses and communicate with each other. And that's also, of course, true in social media. And I think the great risk would be if India were to say, oh, well, we're going to hoard all this data to ourselves, then, I don't know, then Vietnam will do that next, and then the European Union will do that next, and the US will do it next. And before you know it, the global internet, as we know it, will have disintegrated and will have fragmented, which is why we believe that, and I hope this is how things will turn out, that it is actually in India's own interest, given India's very, very vibrant digital economy, and that India is already, and will soon become, as I say, it's not if, it's when India will become a global superpower in the digital economy. It is in India's own interest to keep data flows open. And particularly, by the way, I should say, at a time when the Europeans and the US have just recently, over the last couple of weeks, entered into a new agreement to ensure the continued open data flows across the Atlantic. And I think India and Europe and the US are the tripod, if I can put it like that, for the future governance of the online world. And the more that India, Europe and the US can align and work together, the better for us all.
We've spoken about elections. I want to spend a moment talking about the impact apps like Instagram have on the psyche of young kids, adolescents, teenagers, and so much research coming out. And this is not necessarily just to blame Meta, but just the reality of social media impacting impressionable minds. What are you doing to try and make all these apps safer for our young children?
Well, you mentioned research. As it happens, research is not conclusive at all. I mean, it's really quite a lot of research which suggests that for the vast majority of youngsters, being able to find community, find people that they can associate with, find people that they can share their experiences with, is actually a very good thing for their own sense of well-being. But of course, for people who are not feeling great about themselves or dealing with challenging issues in their lives anyway, and particularly if they're just passively scrolling and not interacting with other people, then it isn't always a great experience. So what we try and do is understand that, and then try and build features in Instagram which will help both parents and kids get the best experience possible. So we've just, I think over the last several months, we've rolled out 30 new features so that you can limit the amount of time you're on Instagram, far greater parental control so that parents have got greater visibility about what their kids are doing. Fantastic new feature which sort of nudges you. If you're just scrolling on the same thing over and over again, the same kind of content, our systems will say, hey, maybe you want to look at some different content now. So I think both with the research and with the new features that we're rolling out, everybody, whether it's government, parents, families, kids or ourselves, we all have the same interest, which is to make sure that any experience online for young people is as wholesome and as positive as it can be.
It's a bit hot and humid here in Delhi.
It sure
we
is.
Just come by the lake. Let me get you something cold or maybe a coffee. Come, let's go. One of the things that concerns me, Mr. Clegg, is, and especially because we're in the business of news, is that Meta, as a policy, seems to be deprioritizing news. And even if I take my journalist hat off, a lot of consumers used Facebook news feeds to stay abreast of what was happening and to get a sense of what's happening globally. Just because of the kind of regulatory trouble that you got into, Facebook said, okay, we don't want to have anything to do with news, which is why, you know, you're now actively deprioritizing news. Is that fair, you think?
If you want to find news, if you want to share news on Facebook, you can do so. There's absolutely nothing stopping you from do so. And by the way, if you're a news publisher, which is the case on a huge scale around the world, if you want to reach your readers through Facebook, you can do that. And the vast majority, over 95% of news links on Facebook are posted there by the publishers themselves, by the newspapers themselves, because they have worked out that it's a great way of none of that. We don't want to impede any of that. That's great. It's just that the more we listen to the feedback from people who use our services around the world, we have seen a very discernible pattern, particularly in recent years, that people don't want their experience to be overwhelmed by news. Look, the vast majority of people go to Facebook for non-political, non-news reasons, to, you know, share pictures of their latest holiday, to organise a Facebook group for their daughter's football team, to share, you know, video of their barbecue. I mean, also it's family, it's friends, it's fun, it's inspiring. And so I think that's the nature of the product. That's the reason. That's the motive why most people.
That's how it started out, and then it evolved into a different form, and now you're deprioritizing that.
Do you know? I think the idea that there was any point at which the majority of people came to Facebook because they wanted to either consume or digest news was always somewhat exaggerated. That really has never been the principal motive. If you want to read news, read a newspaper, go to a news site. And by the way, as I say, we totally support and continue to build for the ability for publishers to reach their users on social media. It's a great way for publishers actually to both attract users to read their content and then direct them towards a subscription paywall or whatever. And that continues, and that's not going to change. But do we want to be in the business of artificially boosting news and kind of promoting news when our users tell us that's really not the main motivation why they come to us? It would be very odd for us as a business to do something which is not consistent with what our users tell us they like about the product.
We're seeing a global debate now about big tech and whether big tech needs to pay media organizations for the use of articles. We've seen in Canada, Meta say, okay, we don't want to have anything to do with this, we're out. As this debate plays itself out globally, how do you see what's happening in Australia, demands being made in India, elsewhere? How do you see this play out?
I think you have to start with, dare I say it, you have to start with reality. What actually happens to news and the content from news publishers on social media? Is it to our benefit, Facebook's benefit, and the detriment of publishers, or is it to the benefit of publishers? And the evidence, by the way, is overwhelming, and there's been study after study after study. It's very simple. News publishers put their news links on Facebook. We don't do that. We don't do that. We don't, and nor, by the way, we don't scrape news. We're not a search engine, so not like Google. We don't have to scrape news headlines for snippets on search or anything. So news publishers put their links onto Facebook. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
They put.
Kya hai ye? Lemon soda. It's like a Indian version of Nimbu Pani. Hopefully you like it. Yeah.
Thank you. The news publishers put their content, their links onto Facebook. That attracts users. They then can redirect their users to their subscription paywall. That's how they earn money. So the value flows to the publishers. We don't look for news. We don't scrape news. We don't ask for it. We don't particularly need it or want it. So it'd be very ironic for us to be told by law that we have to kind of write a check to publishers for content that we don't need, don't want, don't seek, and where actually the value exchange between the platform and the publishers benefits the publishers more than it benefits us. You can't ask any company, any industry in a open market economy to basically cross-subsidize another industry when there's absolutely no reason to do so, and all the facts point in the opposite direction. So, you know, we don't want to get into a great big kind of running battle here, but equally we're simply not going to, you know, just accept that we have to start writing checks to, you know, other industries when in fact they benefit from posting their own content voluntarily onto our platforms.
One of the big concerns about the use of social media has been fake news. And while Meta partners with various organizations globally on fake news, I read recently that, it's got some masala in it, so it's not the way the Americans or British would have it. But one of the big concerns is that artificial intelligence models were being skewed in a way that they started thinking that fake news was real. How do you prevent that? Because you've built some guardrails so far in the work that you've done with the Global Fact Check Network, but that the problem seems to be changing all the time.
Yeah.
AI models getting trained to start thinking that something which is fake is actually true. You can skew it by just pumping it out.
I think the thing to remember about AI and misinformation, or indeed any undesirable deep fakes, disinformation, anything that we don't want on the platform is, yes, it is true that AI might make it a bit easier for someone to, you know, produce a fake image, for instance. But that's not new. I mean, Photoshop's been around for years. You can fiddle around, stick someone's head on someone else's body, been able to do that for years. But it's true you might be able to do it a bit more quickly now. But it's also conversely the case that AI is our best defense. I'll give you a very concrete example. The prevalence, in other words, the proportion as a percentage of the total content on Facebook of hate speech on Facebook today is now as low as 0.02%. So that means if you were just scrolling endlessly on your newsfeed and you saw 10,000 bits of content, 2 bits of that, you know, 2 bits of content might be hate speech. We've got it down so low. In fact, it's reduced by over 50% over the last couple of years, precisely because of AI. And the thing to remember about content moderation systems on platforms like Facebook is, from our point of view, it doesn't matter whether it's a human being or a robot that's produced the bad content. Our systems will still try and pick that up, regardless of how it's been generated. So I agree with you, it's an adversarial space. I agree with you that it's changing all the time. I'm actually quietly quite optimistic that the latest advances in AI almost help us strengthen our defences as much, if not more so, than help people produce bad content in the first place.
As we come to the last part of this interview, I want to spend a moment with you, Mr. Clegg, talking about how Meta views the India market at this moment. We saw in years gone by, Facebook at that time build out a whole organizational structure in India, having a full business head. Now, from the looks of it, in the manner in which that pyramid is being dismantled, from the outside, I wonder if Facebook organizationally is deprioritizing India.
Oh no, I mean, look, I don't want to suggest that my travel arrangements are the most important thing for Facebook, but you know, I'm one of the more senior executives in the company, and you know, this is my second visit in well under a year, and I will keep coming back over and over again because it is a tremendously important market for us. There are hundreds of millions of Indians who use Facebook, who use WhatsApp, who use Instagram, Facebook too, but Instagram and WhatsApp are the, you know, really obviously the big apps here, and more than that, you know, I think, for instance, Prime Minister Modi's vision of building a $5 trillion digital economy by the end of this decade, I think that's realizable. I think if you look at the talent here, I was in Mumbai yesterday talking to some of the digital entrepreneurs there. The creativity, the hunger, the energy is fantastic. I think you've got the second largest to online developer community in the world here in India, and that's only going to grow. Look at all the Indian engineers and leaders in Silicon Valley who lead some of the greatest, you know, the biggest tech companies in the world. So as I said earlier, not only is India,
but not so much at Meta. Unlike a lot of companies where their top shot tech honchos are of Indian origin, it's not quite the case just at Meta, where just in the exclusive club right at the top.
Well, actually, that's not quite right. I mean, the most senior executive who's dealing with all of the multi-billion-dollar investments into our infrastructure to build these AI models is a very proud a very proud Indian, and is exceptionally good at his work. And there are many, many other very senior folk who have either Indian heritage or are Indian who work at Meta, as is the case, by the way, across Silicon Valley. But it's not really about an individual here and an individual there.
Yeah, of course.
It's just about the size, the dynamism, and the ambitions of the country, the extraordinary gifts that people have here in the core sciences that are relevant to technology, and of course the way that everyday people use our apps and use tech for everything, to run their business, to communicate with their families, to say good morning to people, to wish them a happy birthday, to buy and sell. I mean, look at the way that WhatsApp here is used in a much more versatile way than it is in most parts of the world, not just to communicate, but to negotiate, to transact. And I think that is really a kind of clue to the future, and it's the reason why, far from sort of diminishing somehow our commitment to this country is only going to grow in the future. And it's one of the reasons why, hot on the heels of our landmark announcement last week to share and open source our latest AI technology, I was with other senior tech executives at a meeting in the White House in DC on Friday. We all met with President Biden and his team, and the first country I wanted to come and visit and talk further about this with policymakers is India, for a very good reason. Because the future, if you want to understand the future of the internet, if you want to understand the future governance of the internet, in my view, it's being built here in India.
Before you put on your public policy role at Meta, you're a very successful British politician. And I wonder, what did politics teach you about...
If I was that successful, I probably would still be in British politics. But
no, you are very successful. What did politics in Britain teach you about handling the politics of big tech in the US? A lot of the senior executives around Mark Zuckerberg have come and gone, except those who started out as part of his initial gang. You're extremely close. And I wonder if politics had a role in helping you navigate the politics of big tech.
Well, look, we're a social media company. I mean, we're many other things besides, but we're a social media company in essence, and we deal with the most fluid, complex, dynamic, wonderful and controversial thing of all, which is human speech. We're not selling widgets, we're not sending rockets up into the sky or selling cars. We're doing something way more difficult, which is human beings using our technology to communicate with each other. And that necessarily sucks into it moral, ethical, societal, legal and political debates. And it is totally legitimate that governments in particular take a very keen interest in what's going on these platforms. So of course, what was it, 4.5 years ago, it was not illogical for Mark Zuckerberg, you know, he's one of the great entrepreneurs of our age, he's an engineer, to say, do you know what, it would be quite handy to have someone working alongside me who kind of comes from a different world, from politics, because it's affecting, if you like, how these tech companies operate more and more and more. And look, time will tell whether that was a sensible decision of his. But for me, at least, I remember at the time thinking, relishing the idea, notwithstanding all the controversy, of trying to grapple with these really complex issues, but you know, the boundary between, as you said earlier, moderating content and free expression. One person's hate speech is another person's right to free speech. These are ancient debates about liberty and security, safety and free expression, which are just mutating in modern form on these platforms. So of course, for me, as someone who is in British and European political life for close to 2 decades, it was and it remains an amazing opportunity in the private sector to be grappling with these highly consequential political and kind of ethical concerns.
You know, we asked you some tough questions. You navigated them with admirable skill. You've said what you had to. You've also made clear you won't be getting into that cage.
No, I'm not.
Maybe once
I'm
this is
56,
over.
I don't think I'm the right age for cage fighting.
Not this leg, but when you're back at the hotel, maybe you can get a dip. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for joining us. Thank you. Pleasure.
inequality today. In Delhi, 65. In Mumbai, 39. In Kolkata, 41. In Bangalore, 37. In Chennai, 108. In Hyderabad, 62.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
From the miracle of 1983 to becoming the first-time host in 1987.
The More versus Miadad of 1992 to the Prasad versus Amir Sohail of 1996.
And then, of course, the high of 2011 with Mahendra Singh Dhoni finishing it off in style.
Finishes off in style. A magnificent strike into the crowd. India lift the World Cup after 28 years.
Relive India's journey at the Cricket World Cup from 1983 to the last edition in 2019 with me, Rajdeep Sardesai.
And me, Nikhil Nas. World Cup Rewind at these times on India Today.
Hey Danish, these India Today people want to do a show on Independence Day, it seems. You heard of what?
Oh, okay. What about it? What am I supposed to do?
Wait, I can't do a full suspense reveal right now, but they're still doing the lineup, but they want a singer for it.
Hey, superb. You know what? I know someone. Let me get him on the call.
Danish, what ra? What? India Today. What show ra?
Okay, 1 second. We have a singer, but we also need a dancer.
Ishna Kutte. You're not heard, huh? You check her Instagram, ra?
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Does this work?
Since we're all expressing, I think we should also have her on board.
But what do we all have in common though?
International funds are a relatively new segment that we've seen flourishing very well in India. How do you see their growth over a period of time, and why is it that initially we have international funds that are focused mainly on the US markets? Of course, newer ones are looking at the Asian geography too.
Yeah, I think the thesis comes from portfolio theory. I think if you look at most investors outside of India, so if you look at investors in the UK or the US or even Southeast Asia, you'll see that a lot of their portfolio is devoted towards companies and stocks outside their home country. And I think in India this was not the case, but I think today people have realized that a part of your portfolio should be exposed towards stocks and sectors and companies outside of your home country. And what we've seen in the US markets in the last 10 years, 15 years, I think the potential to wealth creation is very, very high. I think I do believe that yes, US is 60% of global GDP market cap. So I think international investing is a category. The first obvious market that you can look for is the US market, because you're looking at the biggest market, also a very fast-growing market. The second thing to why I think US markets are important is because it's one market where you have global business models. If at just the S&P 500, which is the top 500 companies in the US, about 60%, 55 to 60% of the sales is actually happening outside the US. So I think when you're looking at global investing, you want to buy global stocks. And the center, the exchange or the country which holds the most amount of globally diversified business models happens to be the US, which is why I think US tends to be the first category. And now obviously, once you have the US in your portfolio, I think it makes sense to add, say, emerging markets or developed markets. But I think US tends to be the most popular because of how well diversified its capital markets are.
In politics, everyone has an opinion, but I have the data. Whose stock is rising? Whose graph is falling? Track India's political stock exchange. Unmatched, unmissable data analytics. The only show on News TV where numbers do the talking. India's most credible poll tracker. The Political Stock Exchange with Rahul Kamal only on India Today.
They vanished these. India Today people want to do a show on Independence Day, it seems. You heard of what?
Oh, okay. What about it? What am I supposed to do?
Wait, I can't do a full suspense reveal right now, but they're still doing the lineup, but they want a singer for it.
Hey, superb. You know what? I know someone. Let me get him on the call.
Danish, what ra? What? India Today. What show ra?
Okay, 1 second. We have a singer, but we also need a dancer.
Ishna Kutil. You have not heard, huh? You check her Instagram, ra.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Does this work?
Since we're all expressing, I think we should also have her on board.
But what do we all have in common though?
From the miracle of 1983 to becoming the first-time host in 1987.
The More versus Miadad of 1992 to the Prasad versus Amir Sohail of 1996.
And then, of course, the high of 2011 with Mahendra Singh Dhoni finishing it off in style.
He finishes off in style. A magnificent strike into the crowd. India lift the World Cup after 28 years.
Relive India's journey at the Cricket World Cup from 1983 to the last edition in 2019 with me, Rajdeep Sardesai.
And me, Nikhil Naz. World Cup Rewind at these times on India Today.
Infosys completes the results season for Big Tech in India, a season which has been rather underwhelming. My colleague Sakshi Batra joins me to break down some of the key concerns the IT sector is facing. Sakshi?
Largest IT company Infosys has now declared its Q1 FY24 earnings, where the profits have dipped by 3% sequentially. But the bigger disappointment has actually come in the form of its revenue growth guidance. The company has sharply revised its growth guidance downwards from 4.7% earlier to 1 to 3.5% this year, and that's on the back of uncertain global environment. And this comes right after TCS, HCL Tech and Wipro have already posted muted set of earnings for Q1. And one can clearly see that the big four IT companies in India have something to worry about. Remember the global slowdown concerns in the US and Europe, which are the major revenue drivers for India's outsourcing companies, have led to significant slowdown in these companies' businesses. Experts believe that guidance revision by Infosys could also be on the back of project cancellations, and also Infosys has reported second straight quarter of employee headcount decline. In Q1, its headcount has shrunk significantly by almost 7,000. Both TCS and HCL Tech also had missed the street estimates when it comes to their earnings, with low hirings also during the quarter. Remember, TCS hiring fell by over 90% on a year-on-year basis. TCS hired just about 500 employees in Q1 of FY24. Wipro, on the other hand, had seen an 8,000 dip in the net headcount additions in Q1. Also, HCL Technologies and Wipro together saw headcount plummet by about 11,000. So clearly, on the one side, slower hiring, the guidance cut down and the revision downwards right there. Also, we have been seeing lower spend by the client. All of these as major concerns for the IT companies, reflecting the kind of slowdown that is being felt in the Western countries, in the US and Europe.
Sorry.
आइए आइए मेहरबान, चक्का में फंसाएं और अपने साथ ले जाएं। आइए 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 मेहरबान, आइए आइए आइए।
Good evening, viewers. Let's take a look at the weather report across the major cities this evening. Thiruvananthapuram is at 30 degrees Celsius with an AQI of 32. Mumbai is at 29 degrees Celsius with an AQI of 37. Panji is at 27 degrees Celsius with an AQI of 17. Ahmedabad is at 32 degrees Celsius with an AQI of 40. Bhopal is at 29 degrees Celsius with an AQI of 26. Jaipur is at 29 degrees Celsius with an AQI of 68. Delhi is at 30 degrees Celsius with an AQI of 85. Srinagar is at 30 degrees Celsius with AQI being 43. Lucknow is at 34 degrees Celsius with an AQI of 79. Patna is at 39 degrees Celsius with an AQI of 59. Kolkata is at 31 degrees with an AQI of 23. Hyderabad is at 27 degrees Celsius with an AQI of 46. Bangalore is at 25 degrees Celsius with an AQI of 26. Chennai is at 31 degrees Celsius with an AQI of 20. This is all we have for you in this segment. Hope wherever you are, you find favorable weather around you. Keep watching India Today for all the weather updates with me, AI Sana, all through the day.
In politics, everyone has an opinion, but I have the data. Whose stock is rising? Whose graph is falling? Track India's political stock exchange. Unmatched, unmissable data analytics. The only show on News TV when numbers do the talking. India's most credible poll tracker. The Political Stock Exchange with Rahul Kamal, only on India Today.
Hey Danish, these India Today people want to do a show on Independence Day, it seems. You heard of what?
Oh, okay. What about it? What am I supposed to do?
Wait, I can't do a full suspense reveal right now, but they're still doing the lineup, but they want a singer for it.
Hey, superb. You know what? I know someone. Let me get him on the call.
Danish, what? India Today. What show, ra?
Okay, 1 second. We have a singer, but we also need a dancer.
Ishna Kutte. You have not heard, huh? You check her Instagram, ra.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Does this work?
Since we're all expressing, I think we should also have her on board.
But what do we all have in common though?
Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist.
Co-presented by JK Tyre Ranger Series. Stay wild at heart. Co-powered by Watcho OTT Super App.
One hai to done hai.
Co-powered by the new Kia Seltos, the badass reborn.
Co-powered by Sera. This is your space. Play it your way.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today. This is your primetime destination. News, newsmakers, talking points. The big talking point tonight, the no confidence motion against the Modi government. Numbers clearly with the government. So what is the opposition's no confidence motion all about? The politics behind it are coming up. Also, cry for Manipur, our continuing focus with ground zero reports from the scarred state. We'll tell you more in a moment. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. The opposition moves a no-trust motion against the Modi government. Prime Minister Modi to face his second no-confidence vote since 2014 as Manipur impasse continues in Parliament. Prime Minister Modi accuses the opposition of negativism during the Bharat Mandapam launch at Pragati Maidan. Prime Minister insists he will return for a third term as the Grand G20 venue is launched. Fresh violence erupts in strife-torn Manipur. Mob torches houses and shops in Moreh district. Civilians attacked in fresh clashes. Centre moves top court seeking continuation of ED Chief SK Mishra's tenure until October. Signs a financial task force review. Says appointing a new director will take time. 1984 anti-Sikh riots case now haunts Jagdish Titler once again. Delhi court takes cognizance of charge sheet, directs Congress leader to appear before the court on the 5th of August. Siddaramaiah government in Karnataka mulls the withdrawal of cases against some 2020 Bengaluru riots accused, claims many innocents were wrongly arrested. Karnataka police booked 3 girls for allegedly placing hidden cameras in an Udupi college washroom. FIR filed against college administration. Sports Ministry gives nod to men's and women's football team for the upcoming Asian Games. This after the ministry earlier said it will not relax the participation criteria. Hollywood actor Kevin Spacey acquitted of all 9 sexual assault charges after a 4-week trial. Spacey found not guilty in a case of multiple sexual assaults against men. But the big story that's breaking at the moment, Prime Minister Modi has hit out at the opposition during the Bharat Mandapam inauguration and accused the opposition once again of negativism. The Prime Minister in his latest attack said the negative lobby will be silenced. He's declared he is returning for a third term, expressed confidence he will be back in 2024 when he says India will become the world's third largest economy. So the Prime Minister virtually predicting his return to power. Overconfidence or quiet confidence? Listen in to what the Prime Minister said a short while ago.
हमारे पहले टर्म की शुरुआत में भारत वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी में 10वें नंबर पे था। दूसरे टर्म में आज भारत दुनिया की 5वीं सबसे बड़ी इकोनॉमी है। थर्ड टर्म टॉप 3 इकोनॉमी पे पहुंच के रहेगा भारत। और ये मोदी की गारंटी है। नकारात्मक सोच वालों की कोई कमी तो है नहीं हमारे यहां। इस निर्माण को रोकने के लिए भी नकारात्मक सोच वालों ने क्या क्या कोशिशें नहीं की। खूब तूफान मचाया गया, अदालतों के चक्कर काटे गए, लेकिन जहां सत्य होता है वहां ईश्वर भी होता है। दरअसल कुछ लोगों की फितरत होती है हर अच्छे काम को रोकने की, टोकने की। कुछ समय बाद भारत मंडपम के लिए भी वो टोली खुल करके बोले या ना बोले, लेकिन भीतर से तो स्वीकार करेगी और हो सकता है किसी एक समारोह में यहां आकर के लेक्चर देने भी आ जाएंगे।
So Prime Minister Modi appearing confident on a day when the opposition alliance has got its act together in parliament and moved a no trust, no confidence motion against the centre. The opposition claimed that this is the only way to bring Prime Minister Modi to the discussion table inside parliament on the Manipur violence. The centre is strongly firm on the fact that only Amit Shah, the Home Minister, but will make a statement in the House. So what does this no confidence motion add up to? Is this now going to become the last major debate in this session of Parliament before next year's Lok Sabha elections? The battle lines are drawn. It's our top story.
ये मेरा privilege. No, you are on this bill.
The opposition has raised the stakes in its face-off with Narendra Modi government over the ethnic violence in Manipur. Congress MP Gaurav Gogoi on Wednesday moved a no-confidence motion. The motion was weighed and almost immediately accepted by the Lok Sabha Speaker, paving the way for a vote within 10 days. The last no-trust vote against Modi government was in 2018, which the ruling combined sailed through with a big margin. Opposition claims it was the only option before it to get the Prime Minister Narendra Modi to speak on Manipur.
We want justice for Manipur, and I.N.D.I.A alliance is for Manipur. And that is why we have presented the government with this no confidence motion to remind the Prime Minister of his constitutional, moral and ethical responsibility towards the state of affairs in Manipur.
The government has claimed that it is ready for a debate on Manipur violence and only Home Minister Amit Shah will reply.
सरकार हर परिस्थिति के लिए तैयार है। हम तो चाहते हैं मणिपुर पे चर्चा हो। कल गृह मंत्री जी ने भी लोकसभा में फिर बोला, क्योंकि इनका विषय सत्र शुरू होने से पहले यही था कि मणिपुर पे चर्चा कराओ। अब चर्चा कराने की जब हमने सहमति भरी तो रूल्स ले आए कि प्रधानमंत्री जी आकर के चर्चा शुरू करें। ये मुझे लगता बहाना है।
But it is not just the I.N.D.I.A alliance. Even BRS separately moved no trust motion against Prime Minister, which OAC's AIMIM says it will support.
जो देश में जो मणिपुर का जो इश्यू घटना चल रहा है उसका ऊपर जो है चर्चा होना चाहिए। देश के प्रधानमंत्री का मुंह से अगर ये बात आने से देश के लोगों के लिए थोड़ा शांति भी रहेगा, अच्छा रहेगा बोल के हम लोग काफ़ी कोशिश किया था। और आज के दिन में जो है ना ये नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन वो किया है।
It is the day 5 of the parliament and it was stalled yet again with opposition leaders asking for Prime Minister Modi's statement on Manipur in parliament. But amid raging India alliance versus Modi government, who will blink first? With Paulami Saha and Mausami Singh in New Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
And leader of opposition to generate discipline and decorum in their members. Please take your seat.
Let's raise the big questions then tonight. Does the opposition really have a game plan? Will the Prime Minister now be forced to speak on Manipur? Who really benefits politically from a no-trust vote ahead of general elections 2024? Joining me now, Gaurav Gogoi, the Congress MP who's moved that no-trust vote, Sushmita Devs, TMC MP, Syed Zafar Islam, former BJP MP and spokesperson, Jasmine Shah, AAP spokesperson, and we hope to be joined by Rabula Sridhar Reddy, the BRS leader. So all bases covered. Let's start first with you, Gaurav Gogoi, since you've kicked off this debate with a no-confidence motion that you moved. Why are you moving this no-confidence motion when you know the numbers are heavily stacked in favor of the Modi government? Is it purely for optics to, in a way, try and force the government to come to the House and the Prime Minister in particular to speak on Manipur? Is that the sole objective?
Rajdeep, whenever there has been a part of our country which has struck by conflict, where people have lost their lives, and it has had a ripple effect on the psyche of the entire nation, then the Parliament has come forward and sent a message of solidarity to that part of our country. It has happened in the past, but unfortunately it is not taking place right now. We find that the Prime Minister is busy inaugurating trade and exhibition centers. He's busy sermonizing his party workers, giving lectures, pointing to all other issues except for the issue at hand, that the Manipur conflict requires his direct intervention. It is not a simple matter of law and order for the Union Home Minister to reply to. In fact, the Union Home Minister's initiatives in Manipur have resulted in nothing. His own peace committee, constituted by the Union Home Minister, has borne no fruit. And now the conflict, the tensions between communities is no longer restricted to Manipur. It's spreading fast across the northeast. States which are on our border, states which in the past have been prone to insurgency and external pressures. Surely now more than ever, the Prime Minister has to play the role of a guardian and send out a message of solidarity. And together, collectively, all political parties should send out a message of solidarity to the people who are grieving in Manipur. And that's our objective.
So therefore, what you're saying, let me get this very clear. You're saying your decision to move a no-confidence motion is solely directed by the events in Manipur over the last couple of months to force the Prime Minister to speak on the issue inside Parliament. Am I correct? Essentially, you want a debate on Manipur. You don't want a debate. The government will say, okay, we'll debate all issues. Why only Manipur?
Right now, there is a state of internal civil war in Manipur. And we want the Parliament to stand united and send a message of solidarity to try and heal the wounds that have emerged over the past 2 months. We might be defeated by the greater numbers of the ruling party, but more important is that we would have succeeded in a message from the Parliament as going out, especially from the Prime Minister.
No, is it a message from Parliament or do you want them? No, 1 minute. Is it a message from... Is it a message from Parliament or is it a message to put the Prime Minister in the dock in some way or the other?
It is a message of all political parties. The India alliance especially stands with Manipur in their time of need. Our leaders are, like Rahul Gandhi, have visited. MPs across the political spectrum of the India alliance have visited. But the Prime Minister, for some reason, has chosen not to go there, to Manipur. It's been close to 80 days. He's still not visited there. He has not seen for himself the situation of people living in the relief camps. He has not met members of his own ruling party there. Members like the MLA Valte that you yourself, Rajdeep, have interviewed, who themselves have been beaten badly by the mob. His own Union Minister Ranjan Singh's horse has been torched every day. Even today, there's been loss of lives. People are dying. And for some reason, the Prime Minister continues to support a Chief Minister who's played a role in this conflict, whose mere presence in the Union Home Minister's Peace Committee has ensured that the Peace Committee has failed to take off. So now is the time to think of alternative measures to bring the various communities and stakeholders on the same ground and find a roadmap to peace. That is why the India Alliance has submitted this vote of no confidence.
Okay, you've given us a fair idea why you've submitted this vote of no confidence. Zafar Islam, do you want to respond? The belief is the Prime Minister doesn't like to speak on uncomfortable issues. He won't speak on China's aggression along the border. He won't speak on the Adani issue. He won't speak on Manipur. Therefore, the opposition has no option but to bring this no confidence motion to force Mr. Modi to speak. You used to call Manmohan Singh Maun Mohan. Now the opposition is saying Maun Modi, Maunpur, Manipur ki baat they want to hear in Parliament.
Well, Rajdeep, if they were really keen to discuss Manipur and the situation in Manipur, then perhaps they would have gone for discussion as proposed by the Honourable Home Minister on the floor of the Parliament. But their intention is not noble. Their intention is only to politicize the issue, somehow disrupt the Parliament, not let the discussion take place, and only try to give a bad name to the ruling party. But that is something which they are trying for last several days. Away from that, the Honourable Prime Minister has made proposed on the floor of the Parliament that let's discuss. So now they're confusing people that no, we want to discuss under Rule 267 instead of 176. If that is if you are really keen to discuss about an issue which is really is taking all your attention, then why don't you discuss? If at all, if you think that the time is limited, then the Lok Sabha Speaker has the authority to extend the time. But you must start, because if somebody is keen to discuss about some issues, then they will not be overly concerned about how much time is available. It's not that 2.5 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours is not a small time that you can't send across the message what you want to send. But their intention is absolutely not to discuss. They only want to just give a bad name to the N.D.A. or trying to target the Prime Minister. But when the Prime Minister will speak, you are forcing Prime Minister to speak. Prime Minister always has spoken on subject which is important and relevant for the nation.
No, he has not spoken. No, he has not spoken on certain subjects. Certain subjects he has not spoken. With due regards, sir, he has not spoken on China. He did not speak on Adani. There are certain issues he doesn't like to speak on. Manipur seems to be the latest one. The Prime Minister doesn't want to speak inside Parliament on these contentious issues.
Rajdeep, when the Home Minister, Interior Minister is talking about the discussion should take place and we are willing to discuss everything about Manipur, who else needs to discuss? It is the responsibility of the Home Minister, isn't it? And he is proposing to discuss, but these people are not keen. They will stand exposed. Let our people speak on the floor of the Parliament. You will see that what is their true intention. We will dig the history. We will make sure that these people are made accountable, because they are only trying to mislead the nation. They are not at all keen to discuss the Manipur issue. They only want to make an issue out of Manipur, disrupt the Parliament, and not let the Parliament function, and somehow trying to mislead the nation that the Parliament is being not run because of the Manipur issue. If they are really keen, we want to discuss.
You're saying the government was more than happy to discuss Manipur. The Home Minister would have answered all questions on Manipur. Sushmita Dev, respond to what you're hearing. It comes back to it. The sole purpose of the opposition seems to be bring Narendra Modi to Parliament and make the Prime Minister answer Manipur when the Home Minister is ready to speak. And the fact is that if you look at the history of Manipur, there have been agitations in the past when the UPA was in power. It wasn't necessary that Prime Minister Manmohan Singh spoke on those issues. That time you were more than happy for the Home Minister of the time to speak on when there were when there was violence in the past in Manipur. So why now should Prime Minister Modi speak?
Imagine in a democracy, we are debating day after day,
just to get the Prime Minister of India to speak inside Parliament. You're talking about the past, but I can tell you something, Rajdeep. You've been to Manipur. I've been to Manipur, and like Mr. Gogoi said, many other parties have been to Manipur. The kind of constitutional crisis, that is taking place there, the human crisis that is taking place there, is unprecedented. Here is a Prime Minister who goes to every inauguration, whether it's a train, whether it's a platform, whether it's a building, and that time he doesn't think that let the minister go and do it. But now when we are asking that the Prime Minister should speak in Parliament on a crisis which has cost so many lives, where the entire Manipur is, weaponized, there are curfews and there is a demand for a new state. We have repeatedly seen that the Honorable Home Minister of India, who called an all-party meeting and gave a plethora of assurances, has actually not achieved anything at all in Manipur. Why is it so difficult for the Bharatiya Janata Party or the N.D.A. to understand that people of Manipur want to hear the Prime Minister?
But the Prime
Minister,
but Sushmita Dev, are you saying, no, 1 minute. The Prime Minister started the Parliament session by speaking outside Parliament and referred to Manipur at the time. The Home Minister says, I am ready to answer all your questions. As I mentioned, it's not the first time that there's been ethnic violence in Manipur. There have been Naga-Kuki conflicts. There have been similar curfews in Churachandpur in the past. When your government has been, meaning the UPA has been in power. Let's be clear. This all seems to be somehow to get Prime Minister Modi on the mat inside Parliament. That's your objective. Why not be honest about it? Nothing wrong. Your job as the opposition is to put the government on the mat.
Rajdeep, let me tell you something. It is very simple. You've been to Manipur and whatever has happened, let me give another example. You're making so much of a sound bite on the first day of the session. But for 77 days, the Prime Minister who tweets on everybody's birthday and so many situations didn't as much as make an appeal for peace in Manipur, and let me tell you why. It is because it is his government. If it was any other party which was in power in Manipur, rest assured the Prime Minister would have spoken on it, not once but again and again and again. This Prime Minister is the most vocal person who campaigns in every state election and comments on everything on the radio, but not a single word either on his Mann Ki Baat, either on his Twitter handle. To me, it seems he's shrugging his responsibility and is petrified of the fact that the chief minister of his party has failed miserably in Manipur, and that's the reason for his silence.
Okay, Zafar Islam deserves a response because otherwise he'll be encircled by all the opposition voices. No, Zafar Islam, answer the direct question posed by Sushmita Dev. She says this is a Prime Minister who will go tomorrow as he is to Rajasthan, attack the Ashok Gehlot government there, who will go to Bengal, speak about Bengal violence, goes across the country, attacks the opposition. But this is a BJP-ruled state where law and order clearly has collapsed. Citizens have died. Let's not compare Manipur. Enough of the whataboutery. Manipur needs accountability and the Prime Minister must lead the accountability. What's wrong? What's wrong in that?
No. Why there is a fixation for Prime Minister to speak? There should be a fixation for the discussion on Manipur. I mean, I can understand that they wanted to discuss Manipur. But why do they want only the Prime Minister should come on and speak in the Parliament? Why not the Home Minister? It is the responsibility of the Home Minister. And let the Home Minister should speak.
When there was violence in Gujarat, one minute, sir. When there was, 1 minute, Zafar bhai, just to jog your memory, I must tell you this. No, sir, our viewers should know. Just a minute. In 2002, when there was violence in Gujarat, the debate took place in Parliament. It was led by Atal Bihari Vajpayee. When in the 1990s, the Babri Masjid was demolished, there was a debate. Narasimha Rao was there. The Prime Minister is the leader of the House. Why should he not speak? What is this? The Prime Minister wants to speak on issues which are comfortable to him.
No.
Moment they are inconvenient, he doesn't want to speak.
No. Rajdeep, all I am trying to tell you that if the opposition's intention was that discussion on Manipur should take place, then they could have acceded to the request of the Honorable Home Minister. But their intention was dishonest. They were trying to mislead the people. They didn't want to discussion on Manipur. Else they would have acceded to the request. That is what I'm trying to make the point.
Okay.
That they didn't want to discuss. Prime Minister...
Sushmita, you want to quickly respond to that?
Have it spoken?
Yeah.
Sushmita, quickly respond to what Zafar Islam is saying. He's saying you have shown the same question I asked Gaurav Gogoi.
I want your viewers to know that every single day there are more than 50 notices from the opposition party members to asking for a debate. We have invoked the emergency provision given the gravity of the situation in Manipur, and I hope the Prime Minister has the courage and the integrity and the heart to speak in the Parliament on Manipur. That is the need of the hour. We all need to hear him, and we have not denied the Home Minister an opportunity. Let your viewers know, Home Minister is welcome to speak, but we would like to hear the Prime Minister, and that is our right in a parliamentary democracy.
Okay, before I widen this debate, and I know that there are two other guests, just listening to what the Prime Minister said in July 2018, when he predicted that the opposition will move a no-confidence motion against him in 2023, year to go to Lok Sabha elections. The Prime Minister 5 years ago suggested this is exactly what would happen. Listening to Prime Minister Modi.
वो शुभकामनाएं मैं आज फिर देना चाहता हूं कि आप इतनी तैयारी करो कि 2023 में फिर से आपको अविश्वास प्रस्ताव लाने का मौका मिले और ये समर्पण भाव है अहंकार का परिणाम है 400 से 40 हो गए अहंकार का परिणाम है 400 से 40 हो गए और सेवा भाव का परिणाम है कि 2 से यहां आकर के बैठ गए 2 से निकल करके आके बैठ गए आप कहां से कहां पहुंच गए अरे मिलावटी दुनिया में जीना पड़ रहा है आप कोई लंबी बात करोगे तो शोभा नहीं देगी.
Let me bring in at the moment Jasmine Shah of the AAP. You heard Prime Minister Modi. He seemed to suggest that this is simply a milavati opposition. An opposition with a single point agenda of somehow or the other nailing Prime Minister Modi. His argument could well be, what am I to do? Why should I be blamed for a law and order crisis in Manipur? It's a situation where the Chief Minister, who's the Home Minister, has to handle and the Union Home Ministry has to handle. But the opposition is obsessed with Mr. Modi.
Rajdeep, I can only cry at the question that you have posed, that the state of our country is falling apart. There is a crisis in a border state and the Prime Minister feels it's not his business. But then that's not surprising because we have the misfortune of having a Prime Minister whose chosen strategy whenever the nation is in crisis is na kuch bolunga, na kuch karunga. And we have seen this for the multiple years, Rajdeep. Here was an excellent opportunity to use the forum of the parliament for the Prime Minister to reach across the aisle, make an impassioned plea to the appeal to the people of Manipur, get all the opposition together in resolving the conflict.
But are you ready for that?
No,
do you want conflict resolution or do you want to only target Prime Minister Modi? That's what the BJP says, that the opposition is not interested in resolving the conflict of Manipur. It's about targeting the Prime Minister.
No, but this is exactly the whataboutery that the nation is paying the price for. He is the Prime Minister of India. His words matter a lot more to the people of India than, XYZ minister. And tell me, Rajdeep, so many crises have we seen. During COVID, the Prime Minister had time to campaign in West Bengal. At the peak of the Delta wave, he never addressed the nation. He never took stock of what is happening. The number of deaths were piling. He never uttered a word. Just a few months back, we saw the women wrestlers, Olympian wrestlers with whom the Prime Minister clicked photos with Olympic medal dangling around him. He had half a day to spend then. But the Olympian wrestlers asked the Prime Minister for time. He had no time. He could not fire his MP Bridgebhushan. And today we have 90 days has passed, Rajdeep. Only 36 seconds. You mentioned that the Prime Minister spoke about Manipur. What did he say? He spoke after a video emerged. If a viral video had not emerged, the Prime Minister would not even have taken cognizance of the Manipur issue. And instead of involving the opposition, and I say this very responsibly, the opposition wants to help the government in resolving it. But what does the Prime Minister do? Calls the entire opposition as Indian Mujahideen. This is the way the Prime Minister will solve the Manipur crisis. I think it is a collective misfortune today that the Prime Minister makes every conflict, every issue as an ego battle rather than addressing the issue, tries ways of name calling the opposition, and only has time to inaugurate a 1,500 crore parliament building but never step into the building and address the nation on issues which are of national significance. This is not a small issue.
Okay, those are very strong. You've used very strong words. I will give Zafar a moment to react and then come to Gaurav. But before that, Ravula Sridhar Reddy of the BRS. Simple question to you. You're not part of this India alliance at the moment. Are you, though, moving your own no confidence motion? Is there competition between the opposition as well? Because you've got an election in Telangana 5 months where both the Congress and the BJP are your opponents. So you want to say we are different. We are going to target both BJP, but we will not be part of an opposition or a Congress-led no confidence motion. What is the BRS strategy, sir?
Rajdeep, actually, we already have told many times that we maintain equidistance with both BJP and Congress party. And as far as the no confidence motion is concerned, we made it clear, our parliamentary party leader has made it clear, this government has lost the confidence of the people of the country. Hence, we have moved this motion. And as far as Manipur is concerned, we have been demanding from the day one, even in the past 90 days, and even from the beginning of the parliament session, we have been demanding the same, that the Prime Minister should make a statement in the parliament, which will be the more appropriate forum for a Prime Minister to address such an issue. What is the problem? I want to ask the spokesperson of BJP, Jafarul ji, what is the problem? ठीक है, we are all trying for mileage, we are trying to mislead the country, fine. I don't know whether it is, but what is the problem to the Prime Minister?
Okay.
You have taken the oath on Constitution that you will protect the people of this country. Are you doing a duty today? It is just not about Man Ki Baat. Kabhi Manipur ki baat bhi karo.
Okay,
you're that even after 90 days, why is the Prime Minister taking it on personal lines?
Okay, all of you are targeting Zafar. So Zafar, before I go to Gaurav, you must respond to this. The opposition seems to be suggesting on the program that the Prime Minister is taking Parliament for granted. He doesn't want to speak in Parliament. His attendance level also at times inside Parliament is not, he does not speak on major issues according to the opposition in Parliament. He doesn't take Parliament seriously enough. And when an issue like Manipur comes up, as a leader of the House, it's his responsibility to speak up. Had he spoken inside Parliament on day one, this entire controversy could have been resolved. What is he scared of? Why does he not want to take questions in Parliament?
Not at all.
Whenever the opposition...
Rajdeep, you have misunderstood them completely. Their intention is not to have any sort of discussion, find resolution, or there is absolutely no meeting of minds when it comes to discussion on Manipur. I'm telling you from day one, and it is not only in this session, all the previous session you can find that they have, do a back testing and you will realize that they have done every time. They have raised some issue or the other, but they have disrupted the parliament. So it is unfair to even make this kind of lies on national television that their intention was to discuss Manipur. Their intention was not to discuss anything, but to disrupt the parliament. And when I say that do a back testing, you will realize all the previous session, what did they do? They just disrupted the parliament. They didn't allow the business to be transacted there. That is what their intention is. By dragging Prime Minister, they feel that they may get some mileage. But that will not happen because the people's confidence is with the Prime Minister. They have lost confidence. They only want to mislead the people. But
you're saying their only purpose is to disrupt. Gaurav Gogoi, the BJP has now a standard argument. They say the opposition wants to disrupt Parliament to try and get mileage somehow or the other, whether it is Adani in the last session, in previous times, we've seen Pegasus, entire Parliament sessions get disrupted because the opposition simply does not want to actually get Parliament to function, don't want to listen to the government. There's a breakdown in trust. That's the reality. The Prime Minister calls you Indian Mujahideen. You in turn want to nail the Prime Minister on Manipur.
You know, Rajdeep, the Prime Minister may choose to use whatever name he has in his mind for opposition parties. But the question is, what has he done for Manipur? He's not visited the state. He's not met representatives of his own party. When tribal women were getting gang raped, he was campaigning for votes in Karnataka. When MLAs wanted to meet him, he was there, he was traveling to the US. He rather speak in a US parliament than speak in his own parliament. He rather campaign for the party in an MCD election than go and meet stakeholders, be the representatives of the Meitei community, Kuki community, Naga community. Try and figure out if his union home minister have failed, if people have lost faith on his chief minister in the state, then let the Prime Minister have a hands-on approach. But as you said, there seems to be a pattern. When there is a success, then all credit must be given to Prime Minister. But when there is a failure, then the Prime Minister's image should be protected. And his bouncers, his union cabinet ministers and chief ministers surround him like bouncers as if he's a celebrity, as if he's too important than the parliament, as if he cannot be even summoned to speak to the nation inside the parliament. He is above everything. He's some semi-god. So this is the unfortunate nature of our government. What message is this sending to the people of Manipur?
Now, what message are you? No, but what message is the but Gaurav Gogoi, what message is the opposition trying to send out? What is the message you? Let's be clear. This is an election year. You're heading towards election in the winter. Then you all want to make Manipur a national issue before the 2024 elections. That's the reality. Nothing wrong. Be honest about it.
It is a national issue.
Yeah, so you should be honest about it. You want to say that the government has failed on Manipur.
We are not trying to make it, Rajdeep. It is a national issue.
Okay, fair point.
You have yourself done a story saying...
Yes, go ahead, Sushmita.
You have yourself run a story saying gang rape has been weaponized. It's a weapon. That's the state. Can you compare it to any other thing that has happened in the last 3 or 4 months before after the last session?
So you're saying...
I'm saying it is a national issue. We have not made it. Today, Mizoram is protesting. Madhya Pradesh is protesting. Tripura is protesting. Tribal communities across the country are now beginning to worry about Manipur. So many states are impacted. All we want is the Prime Minister to address the nation. Is it not his duty?
Okay.
He's a people's Prime Minister. He's elected by the people. He's not above, he's not above the people of the country.
Okay, all of you are putting up your hands one by one. I'm going to give short 30 seconds. You, Jasmine Shah, first. 30 seconds, but.
Rajiv, I think it is extremely disrespectful to say that to the people of Manipur when anybody states that the opposition is trying to politicize the matter. What are we seeking? We are seeking justice for the people of Manipur. Manipur's own governor is saying that the law and order system has broken down. A union minister's house has been burned. The CM is saying hundreds of women have been gang raped. In the last 40-50 years, when have we heard of these things? Obviously, the Gujarat riot stands out. But where are the other instances? And even then, we asked the Prime Minister to take action, to propose what is the path forward. We are not putting words in the mouth of the Prime Minister. We are only saying, come, make a statement, take the country into confidence. And even if you have an issue with that, then sorry, you have failed your duty as the Prime Minister.
Okay.
You have no right to govern the country of India. Please vacate the seat and get somebody more responsible to come and rule the country.
Your 30 seconds. Mr. Reddy, you want to make 30 seconds. What's your comment?
Rajdeep, even after 142 people died, 17 missing, as per the Chief Minister of the state, till July 10th, even then it is not a national issue to BJP government, and we are making it a national issue. It's an insult to the country. Number 2, Prime Minister is escaping the responsibility. Number 3, don't give us chance. Don't give, answer the nation, answer the parliament.
So you're saying if the Prime Minister makes a suo moto statement inside Parliament on Manipur, you would be satisfied. That's what you want. Gaurav Gogoi, your 30 seconds.
The message that we are sending, Rajdeep, is very clear that while the Prime Minister may have forgotten his constitutional and moral responsibility towards the people of Manipur, the India Alliance has not. Rahul Gandhi ji has visited. Chief Ministers from the states belonging to the India Alliance have said that they stand with the people of Manipur. And we want to remind the Prime Minister that he holds an important post. His words and action carry weight. His words and actions are much more important than what a Union Home Minister is.
Okay.
At a time when Manipur has been divided into a hill Manipur, into a valley Manipur, what the Prime Minister does or says has a lot of meaning. And his silence and his deliberate support for Chief Minister Biren Singh has shocked the people of the Northeast. They know that what the Prime Minister is doing is wrong. They know that he is covering up for the failures of N. Biren Singh. And they know that it is because the Prime Minister values his own image than of the service and commitment to the nation, which he promised to do in the clip that you just showed.
All four of you have attacked the Prime Minister. Therefore, I gave you 30 seconds. Zafar Islam, you get a full 1 minute uninterrupted to answer them. All of them are saying, Pradhan Mantri, Manipur ki baat. Enough of Man ki baat, time for Manipur ki baat. 1 minute uninterrupted.
Rajdeep, if we wanted to discuss Manipur, they didn't want to discuss. The fact that they have forced no confidence motion, despite knowing the fact, they will find the dust, and they will not be able to make any dent to N.D.A. Still, they have forced this no confidence motion, but we will take this opportunity to expose them, because their true intention is away from the discussion on Manipur, but something else. And that's why I'm telling you, they will stand completely exposed. We will rip them apart. We will expose them. What is their true intention, and certainly not.
Can I have 10
because
seconds?
we wanted to have discussion on Manipur.
You will
The
rip
Honourable
them
Prime
apart.
Minister-
Strong words
the
from
Honourable
Zafar
Prime
Islam.
Minister has
You will
spoken about Manipur.
okay. You will expose the
Yes.
opposition. Sushmita
We
Dev
will-
is going to expose you all. He's saying the Northeast. The Prime Minister, the BJP will say the Northeast was burning even when you were in power. Only you are remembering it now in 2023. And let's be fair to Mr. Modi. No other Prime Minister has visited the Northeast as much as he has.
I think no other Prime Minister has toured the world like Mr. Modi has, but that is absolutely meaningless in this perspective. Let me just put one thing on record. In the year 2021, just 1 year's record I'm giving, Prime Minister Modi came to Parliament for only 4 hours. I wanted your viewers to know that. That is the dismal record of the Prime Minister of India, who's elected by the people inside a parliament where people's representatives sit. That's just a glimpse of his performance.
You know, what I really believe, and I believe for the citizens, not just of Manipur, of India, what I would have liked to see is an all-party delegation, possibly led by Prime Minister Modi, including Rahul Gandhi or Sonia Gandhi or Mallikarjun Kharge, Congress, K. Chandrasekhar Rao, BRS, Arvind Kejriwal, Aam Aadmi Party, Mamta Banerjee, TMC, all going to Manipur as one. That is what would really get the people of Manipur to believe that India stands with them. I don't know how many viewers accept this. This is the time for all parties to stand together. You cannot have silence, which is as conspicuous that it takes a viral video for the Prime Minister of the country to speak up. It should have happened much earlier. And the truth of the matter is, you need all parties to come together on an issue like Manipur. Partisan politics, polarized politics is leading India to a situation where a no confidence motion has to be brought in Parliament, if only to get the government to speak on a contentious issue, or the Prime Minister to speak on a contentious issue like Manipur. The rest, ye public hai, ye sab janti hai. Thank you all very much for joining me on our top talking point tonight. Now, even as the divide in Parliament widens, the divide on the ground is widening even further between the Kukis and Metis. Tonight we bring you a story from the ground on an interfaith couple, a Kuki wife, her Meitei husband, whose love has sadly been marred by the ongoing violence. The couple was separated during the violence and have not met once in the last month. Take a look at Ashutosh Mishra's ground report.
6 years ago, when Nagoi Richong married Jatin Singh, it did not matter. She was a Kuki and he was a Meitei. Their lives changed on May 5th, just days after clashes erupted in Manipur.
हमने सोचा कि हम एक मेइतेई से शादी की है, हम एक मेइतेई हो गए हैं, हम मेइतेई के साथ रहेंगे. लेकिन उन लोगों ने हमारे जब आधार देखी है, उसने उन लोगों ने कहा कि इस आधार में तुम्हारा नाम कुकी का नाम है, मैटे का नाम नहीं है, इसलिए हमारे साथ नहीं रह सकते।
किन लोगों ने कहा ये?
मैटे लोगों ने कहा।
वो आपके घर आए थे?
हमारे घर तो नहीं आए थे, हम एक रिलीफ कैंप में गए थे।
Kicked out of the relief center in Imphal, the 27-year-old and her 2 kids took the army's help to reach Kangpokpi. For nearly a month, she has had no contact with Jatin.
पहले तो हमारी साथ बातचीत हुई थी, लेकिन 1 महीने हो गए हैं हम बातचीत नहीं की।
क्यों?
फोन कॉल नहीं चल रहे हैं, उसके फोन को स्विच ऑफ में है। वो पता नहीं क्या हुआ, उसके हालात कैसे हुए हैं, किस हालात में वो रहती है। हम
आपको चिंता है अपने पति और परिवार की?
हाँ, हम बहुत चिंता है, और हम पता भी नहीं है कि हमारे
पति के पास तो आपका नंबर है, उन्होंने भी फोन नहीं किया आपको?
फोन तो किया होगा, लेकिन पता नहीं, हमारी बातचीत हो ही नहीं सकती। हम बहुत चिंता कर रहे हैं।
Nagoi Richong is 8 months pregnant and wonders when she can meet Jatin.
PM मोदी जी और यूनियन होम मिनिस्टर अमित शाह जी हम पूछताछ करना चाहते हैं। उन दोनों के हाथ में है ये बच्चा, उसके पापा और उसकी दादी जी से मिलवाने को।
A wife separated from her husband. 2 children separated from their father. The burden of separation is taking a toll on her.
कुछ मैसेज देना चाहेंगे उनको?
हम ये कहना चाहते हैं कि हम अभी भी जिंदा है। अभी हम हमारी हस्बैंड और हमारी सासू माँ से एक दिन ईश्वर ने इजाजत दी तो हम एक दिन उन लोगों से मिल पाए, और चिंता नहीं करने के लिए हम कहना चाहते हैं।
Imphal is just an hour's drive from Kangpokpi, but the Kuki-Mete divide is too deep today. The 40 kilometers that separate them now seems many light years away. With Ashutosh Mishra in Kangpokpi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Who will wipe the tears of those who have suffered? Now, while Manipur remains, of course, on the edge, thousands displaced have taken shelter in the neighboring state of Mizoram. My colleague Indrajit Kundu travelled to a village in Mizoram just 10 kilometers away from the Manipur border. Take a look at what he found.
Nearly 3 months on, Manipur remains on edge amidst outbreaks of violence. Tens of thousands displaced, many have taken shelter in neighbouring Mizoram. India Today visited the Sakurde village in Mizoram, just 10 kilometers from the Manipur border.
Over the past 2 months, we have shown you visuals of relief centers that have propped up in Manipur, where a lot of people who have been displaced, who have left their own village due to the violence, have taken shelter. Be it the relief camps that are situated in the Imphal Valley, where mostly housing the Meitei community, or relief camps in Churachandpur and other places in the hill districts where the Kuki tribals are somehow taking shelter.
Refugees here spoke about the spectre of violence still hanging over their lives from their homeland in Manipur.
What about college? Have you been able to take admission? You're stuck here in a relief camp.
Yes, we finished doing our admission now, but then I don't know where are we going to start our college. They say we will start our college in August, but then I don't know how the condition right now. It's difficult.
The displaced are hoping they can reunite with family members back in their state.
If it is possible, we would like to go.
But when? Is she still scared? Does she want to go now?
Yes, she said I'm still scared, but I would like to go.
Refugees at the camp say at times they face a food crunch.
How many times do you get food? For breakfast, what do you get?
Breakfast, we don't have breakfast here.
Okay.
It's sometimes we just make red dinner, and then we get a food by 7 to 8, and then we don't have lunch, no lunch.
So basically you have a heavy meal right in the morning with rice and porridge or whatever you get. Then you don't get lunch.
Yes.
And then for dinner?
For dinner, no, we don't have dinner, just heavy meal.
As outbreaks of violence keep Manipur on tenterhooks, the displaced are still scared to return home.
हम लोग तो पीछे आया है।
हाँ। पिछले महीने?
नहीं, अभी 3 हफ्ता जैसे हो रहा है।
3 हफ्ता हो गया।
हाँ।
तो क्यों भाग के आ गए वहाँ से?
डर का मारे से।
आपका घर छोड़ के आ गए वहाँ पे? घर है आपका?
घर छोड़ के आ गया।
लेकिन घर है अभी भी वहाँ पे या तोड़ दिया?
तोड़ दिया वो लोग।
Political parties and civil society groups